Hi, it's Priscilla Gallegos, and we are doing video number 2 for the plyometrics training video. We are going to go ahead and get started with the warm up. So, for our first warm up activity, so the warm up is very important. It allows you to get your heart rate up already. It gets your blood flowing to your muscles and all those good things. So, right now, we're going to start with the jog. We're going to start with the 3-minute jog. So during this jog, there's a few things going on. Um, so, for example, for the lower body, the quadriceps, those those are warming up because they are contracting to extend the knee with each step. Um, for the hamstring, um, they're gonna assist in knee flexion and hip extension during the swing, the swing phase. So every time she takes a step. Next, we have calves. They contract to plantar flexion. Um, they contract to plantar flex the ankle during push off. So I guess a little leg moment. You can see her quadriceps. They're going the hamstrings and calves. They are all needed during this movement. So as we get into our workout, these are going to be very big muscles that we're going to need warmed up for sure. We also have our core, the rectus abdominis, the obliques, and the transverse abdominis. They're engaged to stabilize the trunk and pelvis during the movement. So during our workout, we're going to have a lot of core stabilizing workouts that require core stabilization just to make sure we're doing the workout right and safely and to not get injured. Um, Next, we have our upper body. Not as much as the lower body, but we have our deltoid muscles that are actively stabilizing the shoulders as she's swinging her arms to to run or to jog. And then for the benefits, we have a for the benefits I listed a cardiovascular warm up. Again, it increases the heart rate and blood flow to the muscles. Um, joint what is it? Oh, muscle activation. It prepares the lower body muscles for weight bearing activities. Um, so like I said before, we're doing a little bit of weight bearing activities. So for it to activate the muscles and wake them up a little bit this morning, I thought jogging was like a pretty good warm up to do first, and then mental preparation. It mentally helps prepare for a more intense exercise. This goes for even like getting ready for practice and stuff. When you do warm ups, coach always tells you like you gotta lock in, you gotta get ready for practice. Like we're here, kind of like you're here to get things done. So hopefully that's how she's feeling today, to get things done. This is my amazing demo, Alina, by the way. I didn't say that before. But anyways, we're going to get to the next part of the workout. All right, so we are on our next part of the warm up. So for this warm up, this part of the warm up, we are doing jump rope. I found this very important because we are going to be jumping a lot in our plyometrics workout today. So for the lower body, oh, let me set the timer. All right, we have a 2-minute timer going on now. So for the lower body, the calves are going to actually contract concentrically, propel the body upwards. And the quadriceps and hamstrings, again, a big muscle that we'll be using today. They're going to engage to stabilize the knee joint during landing and takeoff. So as she is hitting the ground, her calves are propelling herself up, and then her hips and quadriceps are stabilizing the knee joint so she can come back up and come down without injuring herself. Next, the gluteal muscles assist in hip extension and stabilization. You're doing great. No, you're doing great. So, and then with the core, we have abdominal muscles there to stabilize the torso and pelvis during the jumping. And then for the upper body, the deltoids help maintain shoulder stability. Um, so this is all. This is like lubricating a little bit of everything. More or less the upper body deltoid muscles, but again, she has to get the jump rope moving somehow. Um, Next, we have the benefits. So for this dynamic warm up, it's going to increase her body temperature and it's going to prepare her muscles for explosive movements. Um, Coordination and balance enhances neuromuscular coordination and balance. Um, and then for cardiovascular conditioning, it's going to improve cardiovascular fitness and endurance. So jump rope alone could be a workout in itself. And also bone density. It's going to promote bone health and density due to weight bearing nature. This is more through time because bone density is something that takes more time. But if you jump rope consistently for a long period of time, I could definitely see this being a huge benefit. Um, Now we're gonna get into the next warm up activity. Okay, we are on our third part of our general warm up. I'm gonna go ahead and set the timer for 2 minutes. Oh, okay. While that's going, we have our hip rotations. Um, so this is gonna warm up her hip joints and her hip a lot, and the muscles around the hip. So for this, their muscle engagement is going to be the hip flexors and extensors. They're going to actively engage to rotate the hip. So as she's coming out and coming in, those are getting engaged. So also with the abdominal and core muscles, those are going to stabilize the trunk and pelvis so she can stay in the upright position, standing on her one foot, maintaining balance. Um, and then next is the gluteal muscle to assist hip stability and rotational control. So just some benefits. Just some benefits of the hip rotations is joint mobility. So it's going to increase joint mobility and range of motion. Um, it's going to have an activation of the core muscle as it engages the core. The muscles are also going to stabilize the spine and pelvis. Um, It's going to prepare the body for activities involving rotational and lateral movements. Um, and then for injury prevention, of course, it's going to reduce the risk of muscle strains and imbalances by warming up the muscles around the hip. I feel like for these benefits, it's going to be for all other generic warm ups that we did, um, as it increases blood flow, lubricates the joints, puts blood in the muscles. That's going to really help wake up the body and get ready for our next segment, which is going to be the specific workout, specific warm up part of this workout. Now we are moving into our specific warm up, heel to toe walks. As you can see, she's starting on her heel, coming forward and extending at her toe. So talking about heel to toe walks, I'm gonna come down so you can see me a little bit. Talking about heel to toe walks for the lower body, it's gonna engage the quadriceps to extend the knee during each step. So there's sort of flexion in her knee, and as she comes up, she's gonna bend, uh, flex. She's gonna extend her knee. So the hamstrings, they're gonna assist in knee flexion and hip extension during the swing phase. So as her foot comes up, she lands, and that's the swing phase where the hamstrings are going to be engaged. The calves are going to contract to maintain ankle stability and control during the heel and toe movement. So this helps her push up into plantar extension and flexion. Um, So also the core is always involved in a lot of workouts, but the rectus abdominis, obliques, transverse abdominis, they're engaged to stabilize the pelvis and spine during this movement. Some of the benefits that this movement has is joint mobility, improves ankle and foot mobility, so plantar flexion and extension. Some of the things she's going to be needing while she jumps today. Um, and this is promoting a better range of motion. We have balance and proprioception. So enhances balance by challenging stability through the heel to toe movement. Um, and then next we have the muscle activation, of course, the muscles that we just talked about that are being engaged. So this activates lower body muscles, preparing them for weight bearing activities. And then also coordination improves neuromuscular coordination between the lower body muscles and core. For our next specific dynamic warm up, we are going to be doing a lunge and twist. So for the lunge and twist, for the lower body, the quadriceps, gluteus maximus, so in front of her thigh and on her bottom, they're going to contract to extend the knee and hip during the lunge. So she's going to come up and her leg is extending at her hip and at her knee. That's where the gluteus maximus and quadriceps come in to help with that movement. Next, we have hamstrings. Hamstrings, they're going to assist in the hip extension and knee flexion during the lunge phase. Um, so the hamstring, so the back of the thigh, so the opposite of the quadriceps. Um, those is what helping the knee extension. So she's flexion, extension on her knee. So and then her calves, they're going to stabilize the ankle joint. For the core, the obliques and rectus abdominis, they're engaged to rotate the torso during the twist. And we'll be doing some twist workouts also. Um, and then the transverse abdominis, it stabilizes the spine and pelvis. Some of the benefits, the dynamic stretch, it's going to stretch the hip flexors and hamstrings during the lunge phase. Core activation, it's going to engage the core muscles to stabilize the spine during rotational movement. And then the thoracic mobility is going to improve mobility and flexibility in the thoracic spine. Some functional movement prep. So basically movements that we're going to be using in our workout today. So it's going to prepare the body for activities involving lunges and rotational movements that we definitely have for coming up. But we're going to get to the final part of our workout. So for the last part of our warm-up, we are going to be doing a side bend with straight arms. So the muscle engagement that goes on in this movement, it's going to be core. So the obliques are going to contract to laterally flex the spine. The rectus abdominis is going to stabilize the spine and support the movement. Oop. For the upper body, the deltoid muscles are going to contract to maintain shoulder stability, and the latissimus dorsi engages to assist the side and bending. So as you can see, it's also stretching those muscles, or putting those muscles in an eccentric phase, just so they can loosen up and get ready and warm up for the workout. Some of the benefits is spinal mobility, increases flexibility and mobility in the spine, especially in the lateral direction. Core stability. Core stability, it's going to challenge and strengthen the core muscles, promoting better posture and stability. Shoulder mobility, it's going to improve the range of motion and flexibility in the shoulders. It's going to prepare for lateral movements as well. So basically, incorporating these exercises into the warm-up routine is going to help activate the muscles, enhance flexibility, prepare the body for more dynamic and strenuous activities. Adjusting intensity and duration is just going to be based on the individual's fitness level and specific exercise goals, and can further optimize their benefits in a warm-up session. So hopefully this warm-up is going to optimize her performance, reduce the risk of injury, and enhance overall readiness for more intense physical activity. So we're just gonna go over everything we did. I'm gonna come up closer. So basically, for jogging, I dropped the mic. Sorry. So for jogging, the warm up, that warm up helps specifically with a cardiovascular system and prepare the lower body for weight bearing activities. The jump rope is. We're gonna do that next. Oh, did we jump rope? Oh, just kidding. We already did jump rope. So the jump rope served as a dynamic warm up, enhancing coordination, cardiovascular fitness, and bone density. But again, bone density is going to be through more time. Um, Hip rotation that focused on improving hip joint mobility and activating core muscles, preparing for activities involving rotational movements. The heel to toe walks that she did, those helped enhance joint mobility, balance, and muscle activation in the lower body and core, and worked on that plantar flexion and extension. The lunge and twist, it combined dynamic stretching with core activation and thoracic mobility, preparing for flexional movements that involve the twist um, and lunging movements. Next, we have the side bend and straight arms that she did last. So, as I said before, it improved her spinal and shoulder mobility while shaking core for lateral movements. So that's the end of my warm up, and we are going to get into exercise modality 1. But for modality number 1, we are going to be doing lower body plyometrics with or without equipment, but we will be using this box because we are doing box jumps. So starting position, we are standing facing a sturdy box or a platform in the sagittal plane, as my demo is demonstrating. In the concentric phase, she's going to bend at the knee, so knee flexion at the knee joint, and hip flexion at the hip joint. And while swinging the arms backwards, shoulder extension and elbow flexion to generate momentum. During the jumping phase, she's going to explosively extend the knees, so knee extension at the knee joint, and then she's going to do hip extension at the hip joint. And then for her ankles, there's going to be plantar flexion at the ankle joint to propel the body upward and forward in the sagittal plane. So in the landing phase, she's going to land softly on the box, absorbing the impact by bending the knees and hips, so hip and knee flexion at the knee and hip joints. So basically, during the concentric phase, so the upward movement, the muscles engaged are the quadriceps. So the rectus femoris, the vastus lataris, vastus medialis, vastus intermedius. They're going to contract concentrically to extend the knee joint. Gluteus maximus is going to contract concentrically to extend the hip joint. And then the gastrocnemius and the soleus, so calf muscles, are going to contract concentrically to plantar flex at the ankle joint. So all these muscles back here, the big muscles, they're going to be engaged during the upward movement, the concentric phase. So basically, during the eccentric phase, the downward movement, the muscle engaged are the quadriceps, glutes, calf muscles. They're going to act eccentrically to control the descent, so gradually lengthening under tension. So during this standard box jump, the concentric phase is going to involve the contraction of the quadriceps, glutes, and calf muscles to extend the knee, hip, and ankle joints. Movements that primarily occur in the sagittal plane, they're going to be focusing on extension. The eccentric phase sees these muscles lengthening under tension to control the descent and absorb the landing impact. This exercise trains explosive power and requires coordination across multiple joints and muscles in both phases. So she did about 6 of those. I told her no more than 6. So that's part of the workout plan. I don't want to do too much because we have a long way to go. Next, we'll be doing the narrow stance box jump as my second variation. So the only thing changing is her stance. She's going to put her feet slightly closer together. She's not going to put her feet together. So Both the narrow stance and the normal stance box jumps, they're going to primarily involve extension in the sagittal plane during the concentric phase and flexion during the eccentric landing phase. The difference lies in the initial base support and possibly slight variation in muscle activation patterns to maintain balance and stability. So starting position, she's going to, of course, put her feet closer together. The concentric phase, she's going to bend the knees and the hips. So hip flexion and extension. Oh, knee and hip flexion at the hip joint. Um, she's going to explosively extend hips and knees and ankles to jump onto the box. So there's going to be plantar flexion, knee flexion, and hip flexion. And then to jump onto the box, she's going to do hip, knee, and ankle extension. Um, so the muscle engagements is during the concentric phase, the concentric contraction. The quadriceps are going to extend the knee joints. The gluteus maximus is going to extend the hip joints at the concentric phase, and during the concentric phase, elastic energy stored during the eccentric phase, the preparation phase, um, preparation phase is rapidly released, maximizing jump height. So the eccentric phase, which is the landing, she's gonna absorb the impact of landing on the box. So the engagement that goes on is the glutes, quadriceps, and calves. So glutes, quadriceps, the front of her thigh, and her calves, the back of her shins. Um, there's gonna be an eccentric contraction to control the knee and hip flexion and absorb landing forces. The hamstring during the eccentric contraction to assist in knee flexion and hip stabilization. The core muscles, they're also gonna eccentrically contract to stabilize the trunk and maintain balance. Um, so basically, so in the narrow stance and the normal stance, both are going to engage the same primary muscle groups, quadriceps, glutes, and calves, to extend the knee, hip, and ankle joints. During the concentric phase, during the eccentric phase, similar muscle groups are going to engage to control the descent and absorbing impact. Um, and then stability and control. The narrow stance may require slightly more activation of ankle stabilizers to maintain balance due to the narrow base support. For the third variation, we have a deeper range of motion. Um, so starting at the box jump with a deeper range of motion, it's going to involve deeper knee and hip flexion, which engages the muscles more intensely during the concentric phase to generate an upward force. The eccentric phase requires robust muscle engagement to control the landing and absorb the impacts more effectively. In contrast, the box jump with a normal range of motion still engages the same primary muscle groups, but to a lesser degree due to the shorter depth of squat position. Um, she's going to do 6 reps in the deeper range of motion jump. We're just going to talk about the movement and what goes on. She's going to start with her feet shoulder width apart in the sagittal plane. The concentric phase, she's going to bend the knees and the hips deeply, lowering the body into a squat position, swinging the arms back for momentum, then explosively extending the knees and hips and ankles to jump onto the box. So similar to the other box jump variations that we've done, there's going to be hip, knee, and ankle flexion and extension to go onto the box. So muscle engagement, concentric contraction to extend the knee and joints. The quadriceps are going to go in concentric contraction. Next, the gluteus maximus. There's going to be a concentric contraction to extend the hip joints. And the gastrocnemius and soleus, they're going to go into concentric contraction to plantar flex the ankle joints. The, at- the atomical movements that kind of go on are in the sagittal plane. There's going to be extension at the knee, hip, and ankle joints to propel the body upwards. Um, the frontal plane, abduction and adduction at the hip and the knee joints during the squatting phase. Um, during the concentric phase, elastic energy is stored during the deeper squatting phase and is rapidly released, maximizing jump height. Um, so, talking a little bit about the eccentric phase, I didn't get to talk about that yet. Again, she's only doing 6 jumps. I didn't want to put too much on her today. So the landing, it's gonna absorb the impact of the landing of the box. So during this muscle engagement, the quadriceps, glutes, and calves, so the bottom, the back of her legs, calves, and the front of her thighs, which are the quadriceps, they're going to go into eccentric contraction to control the knee and hip flexion and absorb landing forces. The hamstrings, they're going to go into eccentric contraction to assist in knee flexion and hip stabilization. And then the core muscles, they're going to go into eccentric contraction to stabilize the trunk and maintain balance. And this is all happening during the landing portion. This all these movements and engagements of these muscles are going to help absorb the impact of that landing. So this all occurs in the sagittal plane, flexion at the knee, hip, and ankle joints as the body absorbs that landing impact. So we are going to go into exercise number 2. So we are on exercise number 2 of the first modality, lower body plyometrics with or without equipment. So for this exercise number 2, I chose depth jumps. Um, oh, sorry about that. So starting position, she's gonna stand on the box or platform with her feet shoulder width apart in the sagittal plane. So during the eccentric phase, so the depth part of the jump, she's gonna step off the box, allowing gravity to pull the body downwards towards the ground. So muscle engagement during this part. Um, the quadriceps are going to go into eccentric contraction to control the knee flexion and absorb the landing impact. Um, the gluteus maximus, the eccentric contraction of this muscle is going to control the hip flexion and absorb landing forces. The hamstrings are going to assist in hip stabilization to absorb the impact as well. Um, Hamstrings, they're going to go into eccentric contraction to assist hip stabilization to absorb the impact. And the gastrocnemius and soleus, they are going to go into eccentric contraction to control ankle dorsiflexion to absorb that landing impact. So all the muscles here, the quadriceps, gluteus maximus, hamstrings, gastrocnemius, and soleus, they are all engaging to absorb this impact. So the muscles and tendons store elastic energy during the downward movement, preparing for the subsequent explosive phase, which happens after she lands. So the jumping part, the concentric phase, during this jumping phase, oh, my knees are hurting. So during the jumping phase, so upon landing from the depth jump, she's going to explosively extend the knees and hips and ankles to jump vertically or onto another platform. But in this case, we're going to just go vertical. Um, so during this, the muscles engaged are the quadriceps. They're going to concentrically contract to extend the knee joints and propel the body upwards. The gluteus maximus, they're going to go into concentric contraction to extend the hip joints and generate an upward force. The gastrocnemius and soleus, they're going to go into concentric contraction to plantar flex the ankle joints and assist in propelling the body upwards. Um, so all in the sagittal plane, she's going to go into knee extension, hip and ankle extension at the knee, hip, and ankle to propel the body vertically or forwards. And then the energy release. So the stored elastic energy in the muscles and tendons from the depth jump phase is rapidly released to maximize jump height. Um, for the landing phase, for the landing phase, um, the this we're going to talk about muscles that engage to absorb the impact of landing, either back onto the box or onto the ground. So we're doing back onto the ground. The muscles engage are the quadriceps, so in front of the thigh, the glutes, your bottom, and calves behind your shins. They're going to go into eccentric contraction to control the knee and hip flexion and absorb landing forces. Um, Hamstrings are also going to go into eccentric contraction to assist in knee flexion and hip stabilization. Core muscles, they're going to go into eccentric contraction to stabilize the trunk and maintain balance. Um, this happens in the sagittal plane, the flexion at the knee, hip, and ankle joints as the body absorbs the landing impact. So when she comes up and comes back down onto the floor. So quick little summary. We are going to go into in the eccentric phase. Muscles are going to eccentrically contract to control the descent and absorb landing impact, primarily in the sagittal plane. The concentric phase, the muscles move concentrically to contract to generate explosive force and propel the body upwards or forwards. The landing phase, the muscles are going to eccentrically contract again to control the descent, absorb landing forces, and maintain stability. And that is the depth jump exercise that I have. Next, we'll go into the variation. For variation number 2, we have depth jump to a broad jump. So she's going to come down and go into extend knee, hip, and plantar extension to propel herself forward instead of vertical. So both the depth and broad jump, the depth jump and the depth broad jump involve initial eccentric phases where the muscles contract to control the descent and absorb landing impact. The subsequent concentric phases differ in directionality and force generation, vertical or forward in a depth jump in a horizontal fashion. So starting position, she's going to stand on the box or platform with her feet shoulder width apart in the sagittal plane. The eccentric phase, so this is a depth jump for a broad jump. She's going to step off the box, drop down into a deep squat position, and upon landing, she's going to get prepared for the broad jump. So the muscles engaged during this movement are the quadriceps. They're going to go into eccentric contraction to control the knee flexion and absorb that landing impact. The gluteus maximus, so her bottom, the eccentric contraction of that muscle is going to control hip flexion and absorb landing forces. Hamstring, they're going to go into eccentric contraction to assist in the hip stabilization and absorb impact. The gastrocnemius and soleus, they are going to go into eccentric contraction to control the ankle dorsiflexion and absorb landing impact. Anatomical movements that are kind of going on in the sagittal plane, flexion at the knee, hip, and ankle joints as the body descends towards the ground. And energy absorption, the muscles and tendons are store elastic energy during the downward movement, preparing for subsequent explosive phase. So the concentric phase, the actual broad jump portion of this depth jump. So upon landing the depth jump, she's going to explosively jump forward and horizontally as far as possible. So the muscle engagement going on in this movement, it's going to be in the quadriceps, so the front of her thigh. They're going to go into concentric contraction to extend the knee joints and propel the body horizontally. The gluteus maximus is going to go into concentric contraction to extend the hip joints and generate forward and horizontal force. Um, the gastrocnemius and soleus, they're going to go into concentric contraction to plantar flex the ankle joints and assist in propelling the body horizontally. Um, so, actually, during the jump rope portion of this workout, in the warm up, help lubricated her joints for these jumps, which I find pretty cool. As I was making this list of what goes on in your body when you do these jumps, I see a lot of similar muscles and joints being um, contracted eccentrically and concentrically, and flexion. A lot of flexion extension that was the same from the warm up going on during the jumps. Um, so in the sagittal plane, back to the depth jump, depth broad jump. In the sagittal plane, extension at the knee, hip, and ankle joints, they propel the body forward and horizontally. In the frontal plane, abduction and adduction during takeoff and landing phases, especially at the hip and knee joints. The energy release, similar to the depth jump, is stored elastic energy is released to maximize horizontal distance in the broad jump. Um, so depth jump versus depth broad jump, a little comparison. The eccentric phase, both movements involve similar muscle groups in controlling the descent and or absorbing impact. The concentric phase in the depth jump, the emphasis is on the vertical or forward propulsion, while in the depth broad jump, the emphasis shift to horizontal propulsion. Um, and some anatomical movements are going on. While both movements primarily involve the sagittal plane movement, the depth broad jump also incorporates frontal plane movements due to the lateral nature of the jump. Um, so that's the little comparison between the depth jump and the depth broad jump. I'll try to do a comparison at after each variation of each workout. That we do. But we're going to go into variation number 3. We're going to get into variation number 3, the depth tuck jump. So, same as before, the depth tuck jump builds upon the standard depth jump by adding a tuck jump component, enhancing explosive power and coordination. Both exercise engage similar muscle groups, but with the variations in each pattern of contraction movement emphasizing different aspects of athletic performance, such as vertical jump height and overall lower body strength. So this is a little harder variation in my opinion. It requires her to be more explosive to get her knees up high enough for her to grab her knees, and come back down before hitting the floor. Um, which I found this variation pretty cool to try to improve on the athleticism and power of your whoever's doing it. Um, so starting position, we're going to describe the movement. So starting position, we're going to stand on a box or platform with feet shoulder width apart in the sagittal plane. The execution, we are going to step off the box, drop down into deep squat position upon landing. And then upon landing, we're going to immediately perform a tuck jump, bringing both knees towards the chest, extending the arms forward for balance. It says to extend the arms forward for balance, but we're tucking. We're gonna try to grab the knees to really accentuate the tuck part of this workout. So the muscle engagement during the eccentric phase, the muscles eccentrically contract to control the descent and absorb the landing impact. So her initial floor hit. The transition phase, the eccentric to concentric, muscles rapidly switch to concentric phase to generate explosive force for the tuck jump. So we talked about the amortization phase. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce it. It's that pause of transition between the eccentric and concentric phase that allows your muscles to snap. Um, and contract really fast. So during this, we're gonna try to limit that phase to allow her to have a more explosive um, reaction in her tuck portion of her jump. So in the concentric phase, the muscle engagement, so the actual tug jump portion, the quadriceps are going to concentrically contract to rapidly extend the knee joints and initiate the upward movement. Um, Her hip flexors during the iliosis, they're going to concentrically contract to flex the hip joint and bring the knees towards the chest. So that's the part where she comes up and she tries to hug her knees, and her knees are up, hopefully close to her chest. Her core muscles, they're going to engage concentrically to flex the trunk and bring the torso closer to the knees. Um, and then the deltoids and upper trapezes, um, they're going to assist in the tug motion by flexing the arms forward for balance. Um, Forward and to grab her knees, not just straight forward. I think you could easily get lazy and start relaxing on your tuck portion. If you have your arms like straight out like this, I feel like the more when you try to grab your knees, you're forcing yourself to bring your knees back up fully, so where you can grab your knees. If you just have it out, I feel like you could vary on how much you tuck during that jump. Um, So the anatomical movements, so in the sagittal plane, flexion during the descent phase and rapid extension during the tug jump phase. Um, Energy release, the elastic energy stored during the depth jump phase is quickly released to maximize vertical height in the tug jump. A little comparison of the muscle engagement going on. So the depth jump versus the depth tug jump. In the eccentric phase, both phases involve eccentric contraction primarily in the sagittal plane to control the descent and absorbing the landing impact. So for the variation, of course, we're going to keep the depth jump part of the portion the same. So this part is going to be the same in both variations. The concentric phase in the depth jump, the focus is on vertical or horizontal propulsion. So in contrast, the depth tuck adds a rapid tucking motion, engaging additional core muscles and requiring more explosive concentric contraction to achieve the height jump. So for the original depth jump, she just came down and went straight up like a needle, like a pin, straight up. That didn't require her to engage much of her core, because now she has to go into trunk flexion a little bit and have to crunch her core to be able to perform a actual tucking motion. Um, so yeah, it's going to engage additional core muscles and require more explosive concentric contraction to achieve height of jump. Some of the anatomical movements going on. So the depth tuck jump introduces a transitional phase where the movement shifts from eccentric to concentric, followed by distinct tuck jump motion involving rapid extension and flexion in the sagittal plane. With that being said, we're going to get into exercise modality number 2. We'll be going into exercise modality number 2, which is the upper body plyometrics with or without equipment. So for this, it's actually crazy doing this in a gym. This is like a little crazy import because we're getting stared at over here. This is wild. But anyways, not the point. We're going to get into exercise modality number 2 with confidence. We're going to do upper body plyometrics with or without an equipment. So exercise number 1, we have med ball slams. She's going to come up to about face height with the ball, and she's going to come down and slam it. She can either catch it on the bounce or pick it up from the floor. So the starting position is going to be standing feet, her feet hip width apart, holding the medicine ball in both hands. Execution, so beginning the movement by flexing at the hips, knees, and ankles in the sagittal plane to lower the medicine ball towards the ground in a controlled manner. As you reach the bottom of the movement, the arms are extended um, about yay high. Her arms are extended. Her body is flexed in athletic position. Um, her abdominal muscles and erector spinae are eccentrically engaged to control the descent. So as she slams down, those abdominal muscles are going to be eccentrically engaged. During the concentric phase, it quickly reverse the movement by extending the hips and knees and ankles in the sagittal plane, using powerful thrusts of the hips and legs to propel the medicine ball. So she's going to come down and then come back up. So she can prepare herself for the next round. So this is a repeating movement. She's going to just do about 6 though. Her arms will continue to follow through, leading the medicine ball towards the ground. The pectoralis major, deltoids, and triceps during this movement are concentrically engaged to accelerate the medicine ball downwards. A little bit of more of a detailed muscle engagement segment is that during the eccentric phase, the abdominals, rectus abdominis, transverse abdominis, internal and external obliques eccentrically contract to control the descent of the ball and stabilize the trunk. The erector spinae, they're going to eccentrically contract to maintain spinal alignment and support during the descent. The deltoids, anterior deltoids, they are going to eccentrically contract to stabilize the shoulder joint. The triceps eccentrically contract to control the descent of the arms and medicine ball. So as you can see for upper body plyometric, we're talking a lot about the upper body muscles. But during the concentric phase, it kind of flips over to the gluteus maximus. Concentrically contract to extend the hips, generating power force of the slam. The quadriceps, so like the rectus femoris, vastus lateralis, vastus medialis, and vastus intermedius. They're going to concentrically contract to extend the knees, contributing to the downward force. Next, we have the gastrocnemius and soleus. They're going to concentrically contract to extend the ankles, adding the force generated. So this is all in one movement. So little but surely you are flexing and extending some of your ankle joint. Next is the pectoralis major, concentrically contracting to accelerate the medicine ball downward and using shoulder joint to extend and stabilize. The deltoids, the anterior deltoids, they're going to concentrically contract to accelerate the medicine ball downward using the shoulder joint to extend and stabilize. That is the first variation. So for the second variation, we're still going to be using the medicine ball, of course, the medicine ball slam movement, but we're going to add a rotation, so a medicine ball rotational slam. So starting position, we're going to stand with feet shoulder width apart, holding the medicine ball with both hands at chest level. Hopefully the music is not too loud in this position. I just noticed. But during the eccentric phase, she's going to rotate the torso to one side and the transverse plane, winding up with the medicine ball on the same side of the body. Flex at the hips, knees, and ankles to lower into a partial squat position, preparing to generate power. Absorb the rotational force and prepare for the concentric phase. So during this part, she's just rotating her torso, getting ready to slam the ball, and then she gets into the actual slamming part. In the concentric phase, she's going to have the ball back in her hands. She's going to quickly rotate the torso back towards the center, the transverse plane, extend at the hips, knees, and ankles, which are in the sagittal plane. to slam the medicine ball downwards towards the ground on the opposite side of the body. Um, the arms will follow through, leading the medicine ball to impact the ground. So muscle engagement going on over here during the eccentric phase. The abdominals, I hope they know they can come. Oh, it's totally okay. Okay. Yeah, no worries. We should have a sign that says it's okay to walk through a video. Um, but so during the eccentric phase, the abdominals, they're going to eccentrically contract to control the rotational movement and stabilize the trunk. The erector spinae, they're going to eccentrically contract to maintain spinal alignment and support during the rotation and descent. Um, and then the deltoids, the anterior deltoids, are going to eccentrically contract to stabilize the shoulder joint. During the concentric phase, the gluteus maximus concentrically contract to extend the hips, generating rotational force. The quadriceps are going to concentrically contract to extend the knee joints, contributing the downward force. The gastrocnemius and soleus, they're going to concentrically contract to extend the ankles, adding to the force generated. The pectoralis major are going to concentrically contract to accelerate the medicine ball downward using shoulder joint to extend and stabilize the deltoids, the anterior deltoids. They're going to concentrically contract to accelerate the medicine ball downward using shoulder joint to extend and stabilize. So a little comparison. Between the two movements. So the standard medicine ball slam, they're going to primarily involve the sagittal plane movements, flexion and extension, both for eccentric and concentric phases. For the medicine ball rotational slam, it's gonna introduce the transverse plane rotation during the windup and slam phases, adding additional rotational force and engagement. So a little flashback to the warm up. We did lunge and twist. The twist allowed her to warm up her abdominals to be able to prepare her for this part of the workout that I had planned, actually. So back to comparison, muscle engagement. So the standard medicine ball slam emphasizes vertical power generation, engaging primarily the sagittal plane, so the quadriceps and glutes. The medicine rotational slam enhances rotational power and core stability, engaging muscles in the transverse plane, obliques, erector spinae, along with the sagittal plane muscles. Some of the benefits from either one of these variations. The standard medicine ball slam is ideal for developing explosive strength and power in vertical and horizontal movements. The medicine ball rotational slam is going to enhance rotational power, core strength, coordination, and which is beneficial for sports that kind of require rotational movements. I have golf and tennis as examples. They both involve a rotation movement. For the third variation, we have the medicine drop squat slam. So basically, she's gonna come. She's gonna have her arms extended above her head, and she's gonna slam down into a squat position and come back up. So this forces her to have a deeper range of motion during that slamming phase. So the starting position, stand with feet shoulder width apart, holding the medicine ball with both hands overhead. For the execution in the eccentric phase, begin by dropping into a deep squat position by flexing the hips, knees, and ankles in the sagittal plane. Simultaneously, at the same time, forcefully drop the medicine ball straight down towards the ground. So she's flexing her knees, hips, and ankles, and at the same time, she's going to throw that ball straight to the ground with a lot of force. Muscles involved include the abdominals, erector spinae, quadriceps, and gluteus maximus. The concentric phase, so she's going to explosively extend the hips, knees to jump or rise from the squat position. Simultaneously, she's going to grab the medicine ball and slam it forcefully into the ground. So this is a repeating movement. Like I said before, since it does have to be explosive and each of the elastic phase, it has to be short to allow the muscles to be able to explode super fast. And then the arms follow through, leading the medicine ball to impact the ground. So that's just her throwing the ball onto the ground. So the muscle engagement going on during the eccentric phase, the abdominals, they're going to eccentrically contract to control the descent of the body, stabilize the trunk during the squatting phase. The erector spinae eccentrically contract to maintain spinal alignment and support during the descent. The quadriceps are going to eccentrically contract to control the descent into the squat position. The gluteus maximus, they're going to eccentrically contract to control the descent and support the hip extension. The concentric phase, the quadriceps, they're going to concentrically contract to extend the knee joints rapidly, generating an upward force during the jump. The gluteus maximus, they're going to concentrically contract to extend the hip joints and provide additional force during the jump. The deltoids, the anterior deltoids, are going to concentrically contract to accelerate the medicine ball downward, using shoulder joint to extend and stabilize. So basically, your deltoids start to contract when your hands are up and you have to begin that downward slam movement. So the comparison between the standard med ball slam, and the medicine ball drop squat slam. I don't know why it's called medicine drop squat slam. It's just a medicine ball slam with a squat. It incorporates a deeper squatting motion, the squat slam, in the eccentric phase, followed by an explosive vertical jump in the concentric phase. For a standard medicine ball slam, it involves vertical and horizontal movement patterns for both eccentric and concentric phases. The muscle engagement comparison between the two variations. The standard medicine ball slam focuses on vertical and horizontal power generation, engaging primarily sagittal plane muscles, quadriceps, and glutes. The medicine ball slam squat emphasizes deeper squat engagement in the eccentric phase, allowed by explosive power generation from the lower body in the concentric phase. For the next exercise, I have a two-hand side-to-side throw. We're gonna get into the second exercise of the second modality. So the second modality was let me get there, an upper body plyometric with or without equipment. So we did our first exercise, which was a med ball slam. Now we're gonna get into our second exercise, which is a two-hand side-to-side throw. So she's gonna scoot back a little bit because I don't know how hard I'll throw it. So basically, I'm gonna get on one side of the shoulder, throw it to her other side of the shoulder, and she's gonna do the same. So during these movements, I'm gonna stand with my feet shoulder width apart, holding the medicine ball object with both hands at chest level. During the concentric phase, the obliques contract eccentrically to initiate and maintain the rotation of the torso. So me coming from my chest closer to my left shoulder, I'm going to concentrically contract my core and toss it. She's going to do the same thing back. So during this, the rectus abdominis and transverse abdominis, they're going to engage to stabilize the torso and transfer force from the lower body to the upper body and the weighted object. So in the upper body, the shoulders and the deltoid muscles, anterior and lateral heads, they're going to contract concentrically to abduct and elevate the arms during the throw. The arms, the biceps brachii, and the forearm muscles contract concentrically to flex the elbow and generate force to propel the object. Um, just like so. Um, so basically, yeah, that was right. And then the legs, the lower body, muscles in the legs engage to stabilize the body to provide stable base for the rotational movement. So our legs do a little bit by holding us in place as we throw the weighted object. Um, During the eccentric phase, the obliques eccentrically contract to decelerate the rotation of the torso and control the movement back to starting position. So to go back into the starting position, I'm going to catch the ball and then come back, and the obliques are going to eccentrically contract. The rectus abdominis and the transverse abdominis are going to continue to engage eccentrically to stabilize the torso and maintain posture. The upper body, so the shoulders, the deltoid muscles, posterior head eccentrically contract to control the descent of the arms and weighted object. So in the arms, the triceps brachii and forearm muscles eccentrically contract to extend the elbows and control the movement as the object returns. So it's going to come here, go here, and that's when the forearm and brachii contract. Contract. Let's see. We're going to do a few reps. Back and forth. So we switch sides from how we started. So basically, as you switch sides, you can do 6 on one side and 6 on the other, just to ensure evenness, because on my right shoulder, I'm going to keep throwing it to her left shoulder. If we don't switch, then it's just going to be my right shoulder getting all the action. So the concentric phase in detail, the core oblique contract ooh, that was kind of loud. So in the concentric phase in detail, the obliques are going to contract to initiate and maintain the rotation of the torso. Rectus abdominis, transverse abdominis are going to engage to stabilize the torso and transfer force from the lower body to the upper body and the object. The upper body, the shoulders abduct and elevate the arms during the throw. So elevate. Oh. I got my stuff knocked down, but that's basically it. During that, so the eccentric phase in detail, during the core, in the eccentric phase, the obliques concentrically contract to decelerate the rotation of the torso and control the movement back to the starting position. The rectus abdominis and transverse abdominis are going to continue to engage eccentrically to stabilize the torso and maintain posture. The upper body, shoulders are going to eccentrically contract to control the descent of the arms and object. The arms are going to eccentrically contract to extend the elbow and control movement as the object returns. We're going to get into variation number 2. So variation number 2 is going to be underhand and throwing it at each other's hips. So to demonstrate that movement, the variation is going to be, I'm going to start from my hip, and I'm going to toss it to her other hip, underhand, and I'm going to catch it, stabilizing it. Hopefully I don't knock down my pole right here. But the main difference lies in the starting position and the level at which the rotation occurs. And the standard throw, the movement starts, it actually starts at chest level, and we come down, rotate to throw underhand at the hip. The movement starts lower with the torso rotating around the hip axis. Both exercise effectively, develop rotational power, core strength, coordination, making them beneficial for athletes and fitness enthusiasts aiming to improve sport-specific movements or overall functional fitness. So, starting position. Um, Starting position, we're going to start feet shoulder width apart, holding the medicine ball. Um, Hopefully, you're not throwing a dumbbell. Um, with both hands at chest level, with my palms facing up. Um, I'm going to rotate my trunk and then come down and toss. Just like that. We're going to go down, rotate, toss, catch it at my chest, come down, rotate, and toss. So a little more on this movement. During the concentric phase, the obliques contract concentrically. Sorry. The obliques contract concentrically to initiate and maintain rotation of the torso at hip level. So obliques, when you rotate, they're going to contract. Rectus abdominis and transfer abdominis engage to stabilize the torso and transfer force from the lower body to the upper body to the weighted object. The upper body, so shoulders, deltoid muscles, the anterior and lateral heads, they're going to contract concentrically to abduct. So abduct and elevate the arms during the throw. Your arms, biceps brachii, and forearm muscles contract concentrically to flex the elbows and generate force to propel the object. So a little demo of what's going on in your upper body. She's gonna. So basically, my shoulders, deltoid muscles, are gonna contract concentrically to abduct and elevate the arms during the throw. Biceps brachii and forearm muscles. So here and forearm muscles are going to contract concentrically to flex the elbows and generate force to propel the objects. So during the lower body, the legs, muscles in the legs engage to stabilize the body and provide a stable base for rotational movement, not only for the rotational movement, but when you have to come back. So the rotational movement for the throw and the rotational movement for the catch. So we have to continue to rotate our body to maintain that flow of movement. So our legs are going to help control that. During the eccentric phase, the obliques eccentrically contract to decelerate the rotation of the torso at the hip level and control the movement back to starting position. So that's basically when I pull the ball back to my hip from my chest. We're going to continue to engage eccentrically to stabilize the torso and maintain posture. So the rectus abdominis and transfer abdominis, they're going to be engaged to stabilize the torso and maintain posture. The upper body, shoulders, deltoid muscles eccentrically contract to control the descent of the arms and the weighted object. So when it's coming to you, arms, triceps brachii, and forearm muscles must be eccentrically contracted to extend the elbows and control the movement as the object returns. So a little bit more detail on the concentric phase. The obliques contract to initiate the rotation of the torso at the hip level. So down, back. So my obliques are right now contracted. Rectus abdominis and transfer abdominis. Stabilize the torso to transfer force from lower body to upper body to the object. So that's the flow of motion. You're going to come down. Your rectus abdominis, transfer abdominis, they're getting contracted now, and to not only to receive but to throw it in a even motion. Upper body, shoulders contract to abduct and elevate the arms during the throw. So they contract to abduct and elevate the arms. Sorry. and and then the arms, they're going to contract to flex the elbow to generate force to propel the object. So to actually propel it forward, you're going to contract to flex the elbow. So flexion, extension, flexion, extension of the elbow. Oh, oh, please don't touch. um, yeah. Next, for variation number 3, we'll be kneeling. Hopefully, the turf isn't too bad on our knees. We are kind of close together, but you can move further apart. But for spatial reasons, we're probably going to stay about this distance. It's pretty good distance. So starting position, we're going to kneel. Actually, it says kneel at both knees. So we're going to kneel on both knees with our toes dorsiflex, feet dorsiflex, toes touching the ground, holding the medicine ball, dumbbell, weighted object with both hands at the chest level. So we're basically going to do the exact same thing. She's going to grab the ball. Oh, can I have the ball? I'm going to have the ball. I'm going to have it over here on one shoulder, and I'm going to throw it to her opposite shoulder. Probably should do a little better than that. Yeah. So we're going to, that's how it looks like from the kneeling position. The muscle engagement during the concentric phase. The obliques contract concentrically to initiate and maintain the torso while kneeling. So right now my obliques are contracted concentrically. And my rectus abdominis and transfer abdominis engage to stabilize the torso and transfer force from the lower body to the upper body and to the weighted objects. So they help me receive and to rotate and to propel the object. For the upper body, the shoulders, the deltoid muscles, anterior and lateral heads contract concentrically to abduct and elevate the arms during the throw. So to abduct, so your shoulders are activated, your deltoid muscles are activated. So when you catch your shoulders, they abduct and then they adduct when you have to throw it to your partner. For your arms, your biceps brachii and forearms muscles contract concentrically to flex the elbows and generate force to propel the object. So they contract concentrically to flex the elbow, and then they help support to propel the object. During the eccentric phase, the core. Oh wait. For the lower body, the legs, muscles in the legs are less engaged because we're not really using them. We technically kind of put them in a position where they're less engaged compared to the standard position, but still provide stability and support from kneeling position because we still have our toes, our ankles dorsiflex onto the floor, so our toes are on the floor, and we are on our knees. So we do need a little bit of support from our lower body, but not as much as standing. The eccentric phase, the obliques, they eccentrically contract to decelerate the rotation. So when you're coming back, when you catch the ball, to decelerate the rotation and actually catch it and not let the ball fall out from your hands. It's going to rotate of the torso and control the movement back to starting position while kneeling. Oh, so we're not going down to our hip. We're going to our other shoulder. So it's going to slow the ball down, slow the movement down so you can catch and then toss back. So to continue, for the rectus abdominis and transverse abdominis, they're going to continue to engage eccentrically to stabilize the torso and maintain posture. I have a camera out in the distance. I just seen that somebody is working out right in front of it, but I hope you can still see me. So for the upper body, okay. So I'm not sure if I left off on the eccentric phase or the concentric phase, but we're just going to start with the eccentric phase. Um, well, we're going to go into concentric phase in detail, and then we're going to go into eccentric phase in detail. So for the concentric phase, the obliques are going to contract to initiate and maintain rotation of the torso with emphasis on stabilization due to kneeling position. Um, Rectus abdominis and the transfer abdominis are going to engage to stabilize the torso and transfer force from the lower body to the upper body and the object. The upper body, shoulders are going to contract and abduct to elevate the arms during the throw. Arms contract to flex the elbow and generate force to propel the object. Um, the eccentric phase in detail, the core. So basically, obliques eccentrically contract to decelerate the rotation of the torso and control the movement back to the starting position while kneeling. The rectus abdominis are going to continue to engage eccentrically to stabilize the torso and maintain posture. And then the upper body, the shoulders are going to eccentrically contract to control the descent of the arms and object. Um, and then for the arms, eccentrically contract to extend the elbows and control the movement as the object returns. So both variations of the side to side throw and then the two hand side to side throw with a kneeling position. For the original variation, it primarily engages muscles in the core, upper body, and legs with movements occurring primarily in the transverse plane. The main difference lies in starting position and the lower body engagement. In the standard throw, the movement starts from the standing position with more leg activation involvement for stability and force generation. In contrast, the kneeling throw starts from kneeling position, where the emphasis is on core stability and rotational power with less active leg movement. Leg involvement. Both exercises effectively develop rotational power, core strength, and coordination, to making them beneficial for athletes and fitness enthusiasts aiming to improve sport-specific movements and overall functional fitness. Um, so those were the two differences going on with both variations. But we are going to get into modality number 3. Okay, so for exercise modality number 3, we have the Olympic lift jerk variation exercise with any equipment. So for exercise number 1, we'll be doing the push jerk. So how to do this movement for the starting position. We're going to begin with a weighted barbell racked on the shoulders, hands slightly wider than shoulder width apart, feet are hip width apart, and knees are slightly bent with the bar up onto our shoulders. Good. So for the eccentric phase, so that's the dip and drive, we're going to initiate the movement by flexing at the hips, knees, and ankles in the sagittal plane, lowering into a shallow squat position. And then this phase engages the quadriceps, gluteus maximus, hamstrings, calf muscles, eccentrically to store elastic energy. So with that elastic energy, he's going to be able to drive the bar up. So you can go ahead and get into those reps. So for the concentric phase, the triple extension, that part of the drive, we're going to explosively extend at the hips, knees, and ankles in the sagittal plane, driving through the heels to accelerate the barbell upward for that explosive movement. So this phase involves a rapid extension of the quadriceps, which are in the front of your thigh, the gluteus maximus, which is your bottom, and then the hamstrings and calf muscles, which are on the back of your legs. So also the gastrocnemius and soleus, they concentrically to propel the body and barbell upwards. Simultaneously, we're going to extend our arms overhead by pressing against the barbell, engaging the deltoids, anterior and lateral heads, triceps, which are in the back of the biceps brachii, and upper trapezius to stabilize the shoulder joints to elevate that barbell. So the triceps, the shoulder joints, and the trapezius, all these muscles cooperate to be able to lift that bar up. During that lockout phase, so basically the overhead push, to secure the barbell overhead, the elbows fully extend, catching the weight in a partial squat position. So he goes into the dip, and when he catches it, you can see that he catches it with a shallow squat and arms up. Nice, good job. So this phase requires a continued engagement of the quadriceps, gluteus maximus, and core muscles, the rectus abdominis and transverse abdominis obliques, to maintain stability and balance. During the recovery phase, so they stand up from the partial squat position by extending the hips, knees, and ankles in the sagittal plane. They maintain control and balance while ensuring the barbell remains stable overhead. Muscles engaged include the quadriceps, gluteus maximus, and hamstring, calves, and deltoids, triceps, and core muscles. So, more specifically, we're going to get into the eccentric and concentric phase during that dip. So we're going to get more detailed about that. So the quadriceps, rectus femoris, vastus lateralis, vastus medialis, and vastus intermedius. So all your quadriceps here, they're going to eccentrically contract to control the descent into the dip position. The gluteus maximus eccentrically contract to control the descent and assist in hip flexion. Hamstrings eccentrically contract to control the descent and assist in knee flexion. Calf muscles, so the gastrocnemius and soleus, they eccentrically contract to control descent and maintain ankle stability. So lastly, the concentric phase, the drive and lockout. The quadriceps, they're going to concentrically contract to extend the knee joints and drive upwards. And then the gluteus maximus is going to contract to extend the hip joints and provide power for the upward movement. Hamstrings, they're going to concentrically contract to extend the hip joints and assist in driving upwards. The calf muscles, the gastrocnemius and soleus, they're going to concentrically contract to extend the ankle joints and assist in propelling upwards. Also, the deltoids, so the back of the shoulders, the anterior and lateral heads, are concentrically contract to press the barbell overhead and lock out and stabilize those shoulder joints. Lastly, we have the triceps, which concentrically contract to extend the elbow joints and lock out the barbell overhead. I do have a new demo. This is Zeke. Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and get to in the variation number 2. So for the push jerk, we are going to do the second variation. We're going to add a pause at the dip. So for the starting position, it's going to be the same as the standard push jerk, except for the eccentric phase, we're going to add a pause. So what this does, actually, it's going to kill the plyometric movement, the explosiveness, and it's going to turn into a concentric phase workout. So we're going to initiate the movement by flexing at the hips, knees, and ankles in the sagittal plane, lowering into a dip position, and pausing momentarily. Do you want a demo? So he's going to flex at the hips, knees, and ankles, pausing, lowering into a dip, and then pushing up. So, yeah. So basically just like that. So this phase is going to engage the quadriceps, gluteus maximus, hamstrings, and calf muscles eccentrically for a longer duration to increase time under tension. So that's what that dip does. It's going to increase that tension over a period of time. During the concentric phase, it's a little bit of the same as the typical push jerk because we are not changing that part of the workout. This is just a slight variation to the main choice of workout that I did. So from the pause dip position, we're going to explosively extend at the hips. He's adding weight right now. We're going to extend at the hips, knees, and ankles in the sagittal plane, driving through the heels to accelerate the barbell upward. Simultaneously, we're going to press the barbell overhead, extending the arms and shoulder in the sagittal plane. So arm elbow extension overhead. And this phase involves rapid extension of the quadriceps, gluteus maximus, hamstrings, and calf muscles concentrically to propel the body and barbell upwards. Oh, you can go ahead. So as he's continuing his reps, he's going to kill the movement and push up, putting those muscles I mentioned before under tension. So the quadriceps, gluteus maximus, hamstrings, and calf muscles they're going to put those under a longer time of tension. Um, Back to the deltoids, the anterior and lateral heads, triceps, and upper trapezius engage to stabilize the shoulder joints to elevate the barbell. During the lockout phase, so when the barbell is actually over his head, it's going to secure the barbell overhead with elbows fully extended, so elbow extension. This phase requires continued engagement of the quadriceps, actually, gluteus maximus, and core muscles to maintain stability and balance. So that not only does upper body, it also promotes lower body. During the recovery phase, as he lowers the barbell under control back to the starting position on the shoulders. So this is the recovery phase. He's lowering it back onto his shoulders. So the comparison between the two variations, the original push jerk and the push jerk with a pause at the dip phase, both variations will start similarly. Go ahead.
Similarly.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I couldn't pronounce that. With a dip and a progress to a driving barbell over the head. So that movement's not going to change at all. The push jerk with a pause at the dip adds an additional phase of a prolonged eccentric contraction during the pause. So basically the amortization phase, actually during all plyometric movements, there's going to be an amortization phase. The shorter the phase, the bigger explosive the muscle is going to contract and stretch and pull like a rubber band. But since we are changing that amortization phase and killing it, this is not, again, a plyometric movement. It is now a concentric phase movement. So the muscle engaged. Oh yeah, so the pause increases. Time under tension requires greater muscular endurance. So that's what we're promoting. Muscle engagement, the pause at the dip variation emphasizes prolonged eccentric engagement of the lower body muscles, the quadriceps, gluteus maximus, hamstrings, and calves during the dip phase. Both variations involve similar concentric muscles actions to drive the barbell overhead and stabilize it in the lockout position, engaging the muscles of the shoulders, arms, and core. For the push jerk, we're going to get into our third variation. So it's going to be a push jerk with a pause at eye level. It's called a tall jerk online. So for the starting position, we're going to begin standing tall with the weighted barbell held at the shoulders, hands slightly wider than shoulder width apart, feet are hip width apart, and knees are slightly bent. So it's going to be exactly the same as the original push jerk. The only thing that changes, it's going to be the pause at the eye level, which is during the eccentric phase. So holding the bar at the eye level with arms bent, elbows slightly flexed, and a pause briefly. This phase does not involve a deep dip, as in a standard push jerk, but maintains a static hold at eye level, engaging the upper body muscles isometrically. So I talked about the amortization phase in the first. In the second variation, this does not cut off that amortization phase. It just changes the movement pattern. Because technically we're still, that dip part is that amortization phase, and we're not changing that. We're changing where the bar ends up in a stutter movement. So this engages the upper body muscles isometrically. During the concentric phase, so the drive and press, the pause position at eye level, explosively extend at the hips, knees, and ankles, so extension in all those places. In the sagittal plane, driving through the heels to accelerate the barbell upward, simultaneously pressing the barbell overhead by extending the arms and shoulders in the sagittal plane. So elbow extension, shoulder adduction, boom. And then one more, he's going to push all the way up for that overhead drive and press. This phase involves rapid extension of the lower body muscles, such as quadriceps, gluteus maximus, hamstrings, and calves, concentrically to propel the body and barbell upwards. The deltoids, so the anterior and lateral heads, triceps, and upper trapezius engage dynamically to stabilize the shoulder joints and elevate the barbell. So during the lockout phase, which means the barbell is going to be completely overhead and he's going to be locked out in that position, to secure the barbell overhead with elbows fully extended, so elbow extension, locking out the weight in a stable overhead position. This phase requires continued body engagement, lower body engagement, so the muscles of the quadriceps, gluteus maximus, hamstrings, calves, along with core muscles to maintain stability and balance. So in that recovering phase, lowering the barbell under control back to a starting position to the shoulders. He's going to go ahead and add some weight to do to rep out his other reps. So we're going to continue with some muscle engagement involving the core muscles during the pause at the eye level. So the eccentric phase. The rectus abdominis, transfer abdominis, and obliques engage isometrically to stabilize the torso and maintain an upright posture during the pause. So during that pause, that's when his core muscles are getting activated or engaged. The deltoids, anterior lateral heads, triceps, and upper trapezius engage isometrically to hold the barbell at eye level and prepare for explosive drive phase. For the concentric phase, the drive and press, what the core muscles are going to do, they're going to continue to engage dynamically to maintain stability throughout the movement. So a little bit of comparison between the original push jerk and the push jerk with a pause at eye level. So the standard push jerk involves a quick dip explosive drive, whereas the tall jerk focuses on an isometric hold at the eye level before the drive phase. Both variations emphasize the explosive drive and overhead press, but differ in the initiation of movement and engagement during the dip phase. So the muscle engagement comparison between the two, the tall jerk variation requires more of an isometric engagement of the core and upper body muscles during the phase at eye level. Both variations engage the lower body muscles dynamically during the drive phase to propel the barbell overhead and stabilize in a lockout position. But we're still on exercise modality number 3, doing Olympic lift jerk variation exercises with any equipment. We are on the second exercise, doing the split jerk. So starting position, we're going to begin standing tall with the weighted barbell held at the shoulders front rack position, hands slightly wider than shoulder width apart. Feet are also hip width apart or slightly wider, depending the comfortability of whoever doing the lift. So for the dip and split, to initiate the movement by flexing at the hips, knees, and ankles, so flexion in those areas, lowering into a quick controlled dip, simultaneously split the legs into a staggered stance, 1 foot forward and 1 foot back, to prepare for the split stance. This phase engages the quadriceps, gluteus maximus, hamstrings, and calf muscles, eccentrically to store elastic energy and maintain balance. So we're going to talk about the concentric phase, which is the drive and press. So explosively extend at the hips, knees, and ankles, driving through the front heel, back toe to accelerate the barbell upward. Simultaneously pressing the barbell overhead by extending the arms and shoulders and the sagittal plane. This phase involves rapid extension of the lower body muscles such as the quadriceps, gluteus maximus, hamstrings, and calves, concentrically to propel the body and barbell upwards. The deltoids, so the anterior and lateral heads, triceps, and upper trapezius engage to dynamically stabilize the shoulder joints and elevate the barbell. During the lockout phase, which is the overhead position, to secure the barbell overhead with elbows fully extended, so elbow extension, locking out the weight in a stable overhead position. This phase requires continued engagement of the lower body muscles like the quadriceps, gluteus maximus, hamstrings, and calves, along with core muscles to maintain stability and balance the split stance. During the recovery phase, he's going to put the front back foot to meet the back foot. Also, he's going to step backwards to meet that foot. When you recover, you're going to push off and meet your foot. Oh, he brought his back foot forward, but I mean, I think that's still okay. So lower the barbell under control, back to starting position to the shoulders. So we're going to talk about the muscle engagement during these eccentric and concentric phases. During the dip and split is the eccentric phase, so the quadriceps, rectus femoris, vastus lateralis, vastus medialis, vastus intermedius. They're going to eccentrically contract to control the descent into the dip position and stabilize the stance split. The gluteus maximus, it's going to eccentrically contract to control the descent and assist in hip flexion during the dip phase. The hamstrings. The hamstrings are going to eccentrically contract to control the descent and assist in knee flexion during the dip phase. Calf muscles, they're also going to eccentrically contract to control the descent and maintain ankle stability. During the concentric phase, the concentric phase is the drive and press. So during that phase, the quadriceps concentrically contract to extend the knee joints and drive upwards, emphasizing the explosive movement in the split stance. Same thing for the gluteus maximus. They're going to contract to extend the hip joints and provide power for the upward movement in the split stance. Hamstrings are going to concentrically contract to extend the hip joints and assist in driving upwards into a split stance. Hamstrings or calf muscles. We're going to go with calf muscles. The gastrocnemius and soleus, they're going to concentrically contract to extend the ankle joints and assist in propelling upwards in the split stance. The deltoids, basically the anterior and lateral heads, they're going to concentrically contract to press the barbell overhead, stabilize the shoulder joints in the split stance. Triceps, they're going to concentrically contract to extend the elbow joints, lock out the barbell overhead. Core muscles, the rectus abdominis, transfer abdominis, and obliques, they're going to contract to stabilize the torso and maintain upright posture through the movement of the split stance. So for the second variation of the split jerk, we are going to go into a deeper split, so a longer range of motion. So basically, he's just going to, in that lunging split position, he's going to try to hit a lower stance. So the split jerk with the lower lunging motion involves a more pronounced dip and a wider split stance compared to a standard split jerk. This is just, the wider split stance is going to help him maintain balance and not fall over in that longer, that deeper position. This variation requires an increased flexibility, strength, and stability in the lower body and the core muscles to maintain balance and execute the movement effectively. It emphasizes a deeper range of motion in the dip and split phases, enhancing muscular endurance and the positional strength in weightlifting and functional fitness training. The starting position is going to begin standing tall with the weighted barbell. Starting position is going to begin standing tall with the weighted barbell held at the shoulders, front rack position. Hands slightly wider than shoulder width apart, feet hip width apart, or slightly wider depending on how they're feeling. So in the execution, the eccentric phase, the dip and deeper lunge, is going to be initiated by the movement by flexing of the hips, knees, and ankles, lowering into a deeper, more pronounced dip. Simultaneously, the split the legs into a staggered stance, 1 foot forward and 1 foot back, with a greater distance between the feet compared to the standard split jerk. This phase engages the quadriceps, gluteus maximus, hamstrings, and calf muscles eccentrically to store elastic energy and stabilize the deeper lunge position. So for the concentric phase, the drive and press, we're going to explosively extend at the hips, ankles, and knees in the sagittal plane, driving through the front heel and back toe to accelerate the barbell upward. Simultaneously press the barbell overhead by extending the arms and shoulder in the sagittal plane. This phase involves rapid extension of the lower body muscles like the quadriceps, gluteus maximus, hamstrings, and calves. They concentrically propel the body and barbell upwards. The deltoids, the anterior and lateral heads of the of the deltoids, triceps, and upper trapezius engage dynamically to stabilize the shoulder joints and elevate the barbell. Um, the lockout phase, which is the overhead position, when the barbell is straight overhead, to secure the barbell overhead with the elbows fully extended, locking out the weight in the stable overhead position. So, elbow extension. Um, this position actually requires continued engagement of the lower body muscles because he is in that lunging position. Of the quadriceps, gluteus maximus, hamstrings, calves, along with core muscles to maintain stability and balance in the deeper split stance. During the recovery phase, he's going to return the back foot to meet the front foot, lowering the barbell under control back to the starting position on the shoulders. So we're going to talk about a little bit of the muscle engagement in the eccentric phase. So the dip and deeper lunge. He's gonna, in his quadriceps, the rectus femoris, vastus lateralis, vastus medialis, and vastus intermedius, they're going to eccentrically contract to control the descent into the deeper dip position and stabilize the split stance. The gluteus maximus is going to eccentrically contract. All these muscles I'm going to list are going to eccentrically contract. So when I say contract, that's what I mean. To control the descent and assist in hip flexion during the deeper lunge phase. The hamstrings are going to contract to control the descent and assist in knee flexion during the deeper lunge phase. The calf muscles, the gastrocnemius and soleus, are eccentrically contract to control the descent and maintain ankle stability. So during the concentric phase, the drive and press movement, the quadriceps, they're going to concentrically contract to extend the hip joints and provide power for the upward movement in a deeper split stance. The hamstrings, all these muscles I'm going to list are going to concentrically contract so when I say contract, that's what I mean. So the hamstrings are going to contract concentrically to extend the hip joints and assist in driving upwards in a deeper split stance. The calf muscles, they're going to contract to extend the ankle joints and assist in propelling upwards in a deeper split stance. The deltoids are going to contract. The anterior and lateral heads to press the barbell overhead and stabilize the shoulder joints in the deeper split stance. The triceps are going to concentrically contract to extend the elbow joints and lock out the barbell overhead. And then the core muscles, the rectus abdominis, transversus abdominis, and obliques, they're going to contract to stabilize the torso and maintain the upright posture throughout the movement in the deeper split stance. So we are on our variation number 3 of the split jerk. So we're going to do a split jerk with a pause at the split. So the starting position, we're going to begin standing tall with the weighted barbell held at the shoulders, front rack position. Hands slightly wider, the shoulder width apart, feet are hip width apart or slightly wider. For the eccentric phase, we're going to go into a dip and split. We're going to initiate the movement by flexing at the hips, knees, and ankles in the sagittal plane, lowering into a quick and controlled dip. Simultaneously split the legs into a staggered stance, 1 foot forward, 1 foot back to prepare for the split stance. This phase engages the quadriceps, gluteus maximus, hamstrings, and calf muscles. They're going to eccentrically contract to store elastic energy and maintain balance. So we're going to talk specifically what the pause in the split position movement is going to look like. So after splitting the legs, holding the split position briefly before initiating the drive phase. So the pause in the split position requires isometric contraction of the quadriceps, hamstrings, and calf muscles to stabilize the body. The core muscles, rectus abdominis, transversus abdominis, and obliques, they're going to engage isometrically to maintain upright posture and stability. In the concentric phase, so that is the drive and press phase, he's gonna explosively extend at the hips, knees, and ankles, driving through the front heel and back toe to accelerate the barbell upward. Simultaneously, he's gonna press the barbell overhead by extending By extending the arms and shoulders in the sagittal plane, this phase involves rapid extension of the lower body muscles, the quadriceps, gluteus maximus, hamstrings, and calves, which they're going to concentrically contract to propel the body and barbell upwards. The deltoids, the anterior, and lateral heads, the triceps and upper trapezius engage dynamically to stabilize the shoulder joints and elevate the barbell. He is putting on weight. I didn't think he was, so hopefully he can lift this weight. I have confidence he can. But during the lockout phase, which is the overhead position of the barbell, he's going to secure the barbell overhead with elbows fully extended, locking out the weight in a stable overhead position. This phase requires continued engagement of the lower body muscles, quadriceps, gluteus maximus, hamstrings, and calves. He did it. Along with the core muscles to maintain stability and balance in the split stance. During the recovery phase, he's going to return the back foot to meet with the front foot, then step forward to bring both feet together, lowering the barbell under control back to the starting position on the shoulders. So we're going to talk about a little bit of the muscle engagement. You can do reps if you want, but I'm going to talk about the muscle engagement as he goes along. The eccentric phase, which is the dip and split, the quadriceps, so the rectus femoris, vastus lateralis, vastus medialis, vastus intermedius, they're going to eccentrically contract to control the descent into the dip position and stabilize the split stance. The gluteus maximus, we're going to talk about eccentric contraction. So when I say contract, that's what I mean for this portion. So the gluteus maximus is going to contract to control the descent and assist in hip flexion and dip phase. Hamstrings, they're going to contract to control the descent and assist in the flexion during the dip phase. The calf muscles, the gastrocnemius and soleus, they're going to contract to control the descent and maintain ankle stability. So during the pause in the split position, the hamstrings, quadriceps, calf muscles, they're going to isometrically contract to stabilize the body in the split position and maintain balance. The core muscles, like the rectus abdominis, transverse abdominis, and obliques, they're also going to isometrically contract to maintain an upright posture and stability during the pause. And then during the concentric phase, so the drive and press, when I say contract, I'm going to refer to concentrically contract. So the quadriceps are going to contract to extend the knee joints and drive upwards, emphasizing the explosive movement in the split stance. The gluteus maximus is going to contract to power for the upward movement, provide power for the upward movement in the split stance. The hamstrings, they're going to contract to extend the hip joints and assist in driving upwards in the split stance. The calf muscles, the gastrocnemius and soleus, they're going to contract to extend the ankle joints and assist in propelling upwards into a split stance. Next, we have the deltoids and triceps. So in the deltoids, the anterior and lateral heads, they're going to contract to press the barbell overhead and stabilize shoulder joints in the split stance. And then triceps are going to contract to extend the elbow joints and lock out the barbell overhead, so elbow extension. And then the core muscles, the rectus abdominis, transverse abdominis, obliques, they're going to contract to stabilize the torso and maintain an upright posture through the movement in the split stance. On exercise modality number 4, it's the Olympic lift clean variation. Exercise with any equipment. We have the barbell here. So exercise number 1, we are going to be doing a power clean. So the power clean is a complex full body exercise that primarily engages muscles in the lower body, core, and upper body. It involves dynamic movements in the sagittal and frontal planes, emphasizing explosive power and coordination. The concentric phase involves rapid extension of the knees, hip, and ankles to elevate the barbell, while the eccentric phase focuses on controlled descent to return the barbell to the starting position. This exercise is commonly used to develop strength, power, and explosiveness, making it valuable for athletes in various sports and fitness enthusiasts aiming to improve overall athleticism. So, for the starting position, we are going to stand feet hip width apart, toes under the barbell. grip the barbell slightly wider than shoulder width apart, palms facing down. So we're going to have our hands in a pronated grip, overhand grip, as one may say. Hips lower than the shoulders, back flat, chest up for the starting position. During the concentric phase of the quadriceps, so the lower body, the quadriceps are going to contract concentrically to extend the knees. The gluteus maximus is going to contract concentrically to extend the hips. Hamstrings are actively engaged to extend the hips and assist in the extension. The gastrocnemius and soleus are going to contract to plantar flex the ankles. The core. Oh wait, let's go ahead and do the movement. He's going to get in that starting position so he can explain which one's which. So everything's contracting right now. There's knee flexion. He's going to go ahead and pull the bar up to hip trunk extension, and he's going to go ahead and do the power clean movement. You can go ahead and just do the full range of motion. Perfect. Amazing. So for the core, the rectus abdominis, obliques, and transverse abdominis is going to engage to stabilize the spine and transfer force from the lower body to the upper body. For the upper body, the deltoid muscles, anterior and lateral heads, contract to abduct the shoulders. The trapezius, so the upper fibers, are going to contract to elevate the scapulae and support the shoulders. The biceps brachii are going to contract concentrically to flex the elbows and pull the barbell upwards. So elbow flexion, and it's going to be pulling the barbell. And the forearm muscles are going to contract to maintain grip of the barbell. Okay. During the eccentric phase, so the lower body, the quadriceps are going to contract to control the descent of the knees. As the knees flex, the gluteus maximus are going to contract to control the descent of the hips. The hamstrings are going to lengthen eccentrically to control the hip and knee flexion. The gastrocnemius and soleus, they're going to contract eccentrically to control dorsiflexion of the ankles. So back to the core, during the eccentric phase, we have the rectus abdominis, obliques, and transverse abdominis. They engage to stabilize the spine and maintain posture throughout the movement, which is very important because people throw out their back in this movement all the time. Upper body, during the eccentric phase, the deltoid muscles, so the posterior head, they're going to eccentrically contract to control the descent of the shoulders. Biceps brachii and forearm muscles are going to contract to control the descent of the barbell and maintain grip. So for the second variation of the, what were we doing?
Power clean.
We were doing the power clean.
Power clean.
Yes. So the second variation, we're going to catch the bar in the squat position. So the squat power clean, where you catch the barbell in the squat position, compared to a standard power clean, involves similar movements in the sagittal and frontal planes, but includes an additional squatting motion during the catch phase. Both exercises engage muscles in the lower body, core, and upper body, emphasizing explosive power and coordination. The concentric phase involves rapid extension of the hips, knees, and ankles to elevate the barbell, while the eccentric phase focuses on controlled descent into squat position to catch the barbell. This exercise variation is valuable for athletes looking to develop lower body strength, power, and mobility, making it suitable for improving overall athleticism and performance in various sports. So, to do the squat power clean, we're going to go into the starting position, which is similar to the standard power clean. However, in the catch phase, instead of catching the bar in the standing position, he's going to descend into a squat and catch the barbell. So you can go ahead and do a full rep of 1. He's going to catch it and squat. Amazing. So we're going to talk about the muscle engagement during the concentric phase in the lower body. So the quadriceps are going to contract concentrically, and then when I mention any muscle from here on until I say otherwise, I'm going to mean concentrically contract. So the quadriceps are going to contract to extend the knees during the initial pull phase. The gluteus maximus is going to contract to extend the hips and generate power for the barbell. And the hamstrings are going to assist in hip extension and knee extension. The gastrocnemius and soleus are going to contract plantar, flex, and the ankles. In the core, the rectus abdominis, obliques, and transverse abdominis are going to engage to stabilize the spine, transfer force from the lower body to the upper body. And so going into the upper body, concentric phase, the deltoid muscles, the anterior and lateral heads contract to concentrically elevate and abduct the shoulders. The biceps brachii are going to contract concentrically to flex the elbows and pull the barbell upwards. The forearms are going to contract to maintain grip on the barbells. Thank you for the demo. In the eccentric phase, the quadriceps are going to eccentrically contract to control the descent as you descend into a squat position and to catch the barbell. The gluteus maximus is going to eccentrically contract to control the descent of the hips. The hamstrings are going to eccentrically lengthen to control hip and knee flexion. The gastrocnemius and soleus are going to eccentrically contract to control dorsiflexion of the ankles. In the core, during the eccentric phase, the rectus abdominis, obliques, and transverse abdominis to continue engage. They're going to continue to engage eccentrically, to stabilize spine and maintain posture. Upper body, the deltoid muscles, the posterior head eccentrically contract to control the descent of the shoulders as you descend into a squat position. You can do a few reps if you want. The biceps brachii and forearm muscles eccentrically contract to control the descent of the barbell and maintain grip. The concentric phase in detail. So the quadriceps, they're going to contract to extend the knees, generate the upward momentum of the barbell. Gluteus maximus, they're going to contract to extend the hips and provide power for the lift. Core in the concentric phase, the rectus abdominis, obliques, and transverse abdominis stabilize the spine and transfer force from the lower body to the upper body. And then the upper body, they contract to elevate the pull of the barbell when it goes upwards. During the eccentric phase in detail, the lower body, the quadriceps are going to eccentrically contract to control knee flexion as you descend into a squat position. The gluteus maximus, they're going to eccentrically contract to control hip flexion during the descent. The core, the rectus abdominis, obliques, and transverse abdominis are going to engage eccentrically to stabilize the spine and maintain posture. And then for the upper body, the shoulders and arms eccentrically contract to control the descent of the barbell. So for the third variation of the power clean, we're going to do a split power clean. So actually, I don't think I explained this to you, but we're going to do a split power clean. So you're going to basically go into a, like the split jerk, you're going to put 1 foot forward, 1 foot back into a lunge. So a split power clean. So during a split power clean, it involves similar movement patterns to the standard power clean, but introduces a split stance during the catch phase instead of catching the barbell in a squat position. Both exercises primarily engage muscles in the lower body, core, and upper body, focusing on explosive power and coordination. The concentric phase involves rapid extension at the hips, knees, and ankles to elevate the bar, while the eccentric phase focuses on controlled descent into a split stance to catch the barbell. The exercise variation is beneficial for athletes looking to develop lower body strength, power, and coordination, making it suitable for improving overall athleticism and performance in various sports. So we're going to go ahead and talk about the movement of the split power clean. Starting position, similar to the standard power clean. As you perform the pull phase, instead of catching the barbell in the squat position, you're going to split your stance into a lunge position, 1 foot forward, 1 foot back, to catch the barbell. That was actually really good. With the 25-pound weights, that was pretty good. But anyways, so in the concentric phase, the lower body, the quadriceps contract concentrically to extend the knees during the initial pull phase. The gluteus maximus contracts concentrically to extend the hips and generate power for the barbell. The hamstrings, they assist in hip extension and knee extension. The gastrocnemius and soleus contract to plantar flex the ankles. The core, In the concentric phase, the rectus abdominis, obliques, and transverse abdominis, they engage to stabilize the spine and transfer force from the lower body to the upper body. And then the upper body, during the concentric phase, the deltoid muscles, the anterior and lateral heads, they contract concentrically to elevate the abduct of the shoulders. The biceps brachii contract concentrically to flex the elbows and pull the barbell upwards. Um, Forearm muscles contract to maintain grip on the barbell. In the eccentric phase, in the lower body, quadriceps eccentrically contract to control the descent as you descend into a split stance, so that lunge position that we've added to this power clean. The gluteus maximus, they eccentrically contract to control the descent of the hips. The hamstrings, they're going to eccentrically lengthen to control the hip and knee flexion. The gastrocnemius and soleus, they're going to eccentrically contract to control the dorsal flexion of the ankles. For the core, during the eccentric phase, they're going to continue to engage eccentrically to stabilize the spine and maintain posture. For the upper body, the deltoid muscles, posterior head, eccentrically contract to control the descent of the shoulders as you descend into a split stance. The biceps brachii and forearm muscles eccentrically contract to control the descent of the barbell and maintain grip. How many reps? You can do 2 or 3. You can just knock them out if you want. So the quadriceps are going to contract to extend the knees and generate upward momentum for the barbell, as you just did. The gluteus maximus is going to contract to extend the hips and provide power for the lift. The core is going to stabilize the spine and transfer force from the lower body to the upper body as that weight transitions also. The shoulders and arms contract to elevate and pull the barbell upwards. The eccentric phase, the quadriceps, they're gonna control the knee flexion as you descend into the split stance. So the lunge position, gluteus maximus, they control hip flexion during the descent. Core, during the eccentric phase, they engage eccentrically to stabilize the spine and maintain posture. The upper body, they eccentrically contract to control the descent of the barbell. For the exercise modality number 4, Olympic lift clean variation with any equipment, we're going to move on to exercise number 2, which is scrolling, the hang clean. So the starting position for the hang clean, the barbell is going to be held with an overhand grip, so pronated grip, palms facing down, slightly wider than shoulder width apart. The barbell is going to be positioned at mid-thigh level or slightly above the knees, depending on the lifter's height and limb length. Body position, feet are hip width apart or slightly wider. Toes are positioned under the barbell. Knees are flexed but not deeply as in a squat, allowing the hips to be slightly higher than knee level. Hips are pushed back with the torso leaning slightly forward over the barbell. Okay. Shoulders are slightly in front of the barbell, maintaining tension in the posterior chain, back, and hamstrings. Muscle engagement and movement description. So for the hang clean, you can go ahead and do a full range of motion. Could you do one real quick? So with that, and then he's going to explode, pushing the barbell up to his chest and cleaning it up there. Muscle engagement and movement description. For the concentric phase, the lower body, the quadriceps are going to contract to extend the knees as the lifter explosively extends the hips. The gluteus maximus contracts to extend the hips, generating power to propel the barbell upwards. Hamstrings assist in hip extension and knee extension. The gastrocnemius and soleus contract to plantar flex the ankles. In the core, the rectus abdominis, obliques, and transverse abdominis, they're going to engage to stabilize the spine and transfer force from the lower body to the upper body. For the upper body, the deltoid muscles, the anterior and lateral heads contract to abduct the shoulders and elevate the arms. The trapezius, the upper fibers more specifically, contract to elevate the scapulae and support the shoulders. The biceps brachii contract to flex the elbows and pull the barbell upwards. In the forearm, those muscles are going to contract to maintain grip on the barbell. Um, so getting in more, oh wait, no, the eccentric phase. I didn't talk about that. So the eccentric phase in the lower body, the quadriceps are going to eccentrically contract to control the descent as the lifter lowers the barbell back down to starting position. The gluteus maximus, they're going to eccentrically contract to control the descent of the hips. The hamstrings are going to eccentrically lengthen to control hip and knee flexion. The gastrocnemius and soleus, they're going to eccentrically contract to control dorsiflexion of the ankles. The core, the rectus abdominis, obliques, and transverse abdominis, they're going to continue to engage eccentrically and stabilize the spine and maintain posture. Did you want to do more reps? You don't have to. Okay. For the upper body, lastly, the deltoid muscles, the posterior head, eccentrically contract to control the descent of the shoulders. The biceps brachii and forearm muscles eccentrically contract to control the descent of the barbell and maintain grip. So we're going to go into variation number 2. So for the hang clean, we are going to start below the knee. So you'll probably, so instead of hanging the bar in front of the thigh above the knee, it's going to be right under the knee. It's going to be the exact same setup, similar setup to a hang clean. The barbell is placed slightly below the knees, typically around mid-shin level. The grip and stance are the same as the standard hang clean. So that's the only thing that changes. We're going to just hang the bar slightly below our knees, causing him to maybe go into deeper knee flexion. So for the hang clean, starting below the knee involves placing the barbell slightly lower on the shins compared to the standard hang clean. This variation requires a slightly deeper initial pull, engaging muscles similarly in the lower body, core, and upper body, emphasizing power, coordination, and timing. Both exercises involve explosive movements, primarily in the sagittal and frontal planes, making them effective for developing strength and athletic performance. Adjusting the starting position below the knee can provide variation and specific training adaptations depending on the athlete's needs or goals. So the muscle engagement in the concentric phase, specifically in the lower body, the quadriceps are going to contract concentrically to extend the knees as the lifter explosively extends the hips, and the gluteus maximus contracts concentrically to extend the hips, generating power to propel the barbell upwards. The hamstrings are going to assist in hip extension and knee extension, and the gastrocnemius and soleus, they're going to contract the plantar flex and the ankles. For the core in the concentric phase, the rectus abdominis, obliques, and transverse abdominis, they're engaged to stabilize spine and transfer force from the lower body to the upper body. In the upper body, the deltoid muscles, anterior and lateral heads, they contract to abduct the shoulders and elevate the arms. The trapezius, specifically the upper fibers, contract to elevate the scapulae and support the shoulders. The biceps brachii, they contract to flex the elbows and pull the barbell upwards. Forearm muscles, they contract to maintain grip on the barbell. So, in the concentric phase, in detail, you can do some reps. You can do as many. On the form, I'm going to put six reps so he doesn't really burn himself out. So the concentric phase in detail is the lower body. The quadriceps contract to extend the knees and generate upward momentum for the barbell. The gluteus maximus contract to extend the hips and provide power for the lift. The core, the rectus abdominis, obliques, and transverse abdominis stabilize the spine and transfer force from the lower body to the upper body. The upper body, the shoulders and arms contract to elevate and pull the barbell upwards. A little bit of the concentric phase in detail. The quadriceps eccentrically contract to control knee flexion as you lower the barbell back down, and the gluteus maximus eccentrically contract to control the hip flexion during the descent. The core, so the rectus abdominis, obliques, and transverse abdominis engage eccentrically to stabilize the spine and maintain posture. For the upper body, the shoulders and arms eccentrically contract to control the descent of the barbell. True. We're going to get into, oh my goodness, that was loud. Somebody slamming weights over there. But we're going to get into variation number 3. This is going to be the squat hang clean. We're going to talk about it a little bit. So the squat hang clean. Good gravy. So somebody is slamming weights. Please excuse that. I'm sorry if that's super loud on the mic. I think that was really unnecessary, but that's okay. Okay, same person. We're gonna get into variation number 3. Variation number 3 of the squat hang clean. The hang clean squat involves catching the barbell in the squatting position, which requires deeper knee and hip flexion compared to the standard hang clean. This variation emphasizes lower body strength, mobility, coordination, engaging muscles in the quadriceps, gluteus maximus, hamstrings, core, and upper body. Both exercises focus on explosive power and coordination, but the hang clean squat adds deeper squatting element, making it beneficial for athletes and lifters aiming to improve strength, power, and squatting mechanics. Adjusting the catch position can provide specific training adaptations based on the athlete's sport specific needs and goals. Starting with the description of the movement, the starting position is going to be a similar setup as the standard hang clean. The lifter pulls the barbell upwards, catches it in the full squat position, thighs parallel or below parallel to the ground. So he can adjust how deep he wants the squat to be. He can go into a super deep squat or in a regular 90-degree knee flexion position or smaller degree flexion. He's going to go ahead and do 1 rep, show how that goes. So yeah, basically he went into a parallel to the ground, his thighs. So he went to a 90-degree knee flexion. The concentric phase, during the muscle engagement of the lower body, the quadriceps contract concentrically to extend the knees and help lift the lifter's body weight. The gluteus maximus contracts concentrically to extend the hips. The hamstrings assist in the hips. I see what I wrote. So the hamstrings assist in the hip extension and knee extension. The gluteus maximus contracts concentrically to extend the hips. Okay. And then the gastrocnemius and soleus, they contract to plantar flex the ankles. For the core, the rectus abdominis, obliques, and transverse abdominis engage to stabilize the spine. Maintain torso position. Upper body, the deltoid muscles, anterior and lateral heads contract concentrically to elevate and abduct the shoulders. The trapezius, specifically the upper fibers, contract to support the shoulders and scapulae. Biceps brachii contract concentrically to flex the elbow and maintain grip on the barbell. In the eccentric phase, the lower body, the quadriceps, eccentrically contract to control the descent as the lifter lowers into the squat position. So in that squat position, his quadriceps, that's when they eccentrically contract. The gluteus maximus eccentrically contract to control the descent of the hips. So as his hips go down, his gluteus maximus is going to eccentrically contract, stretching those glute muscles. Hamstrings, they eccentrically lengthen to control hip flexion and knee flexion. Gastrocnemius and soleus eccentrically contract to control dorsiflexion of the ankles. For the core, the rectus abdominis, obliques, and transverse abdominis engage eccentrically to stabilize the spine and maintain posture. For the upper body, the deltoid muscles, specifically the posterior head, eccentrically contract to control of the descent of the shoulders. The biceps brachii and forearm muscles, they're going to eccentrically contract to control the descent of the barbell and maintain grip. To So basically, when he brings the barbell down, that's when all these muscle engagement happens. Um, so quadriceps, when he lowers, those get engaged, and then the gluteus maximus, when he has to drop his hips, so trunk flexion, the maximus eccentrically contracts to control that, um, and so on. The concentric phase in detail, the quadriceps contract to extend the knees, hips, lifting the body's weight and the barbell. So not only his own weight, but the barbell's weight. The quadriceps help with that movement. The gluteus maximus contract to extend the hips, providing the power for the lift. The core, the rectus abdominis, obliques, transverse abdominis, stabilize the spine and maintain torso position. The upper body, so the shoulders and arms contract to elevate and pull the barbell upwards. The eccentric phase in detail for the lower body, the quadriceps eccentrically contract to control the knee flexion as the lifter descends into squat position. The gluteus maximus eccentrically contract to control hip flexion during the descent. For the core, the rectus abdominis, obliques, transverse abdominis engage eccentrically to stabilize the spine and maintain torso position. Um, For the upper body, shoulders and arms eccentrically contract to control the descent of the barbell. So we are on exercise modality number 5 with the battle rope power or speed exercises. For the battle rope power exercise, we have alternating wave slams. So battle rope alternating wave slams are a dynamic exercise that engage multiple muscle groups in the coordinated manner, primarily in the sagittal plane. The movement starts from a stable distance with a proper grip. It involves alternating rapid concentric contractions, shoulder and elbow flexors to lift the ropes, followed by eccentric contraction to control their descent. This exercise not only enhances upper body strength and endurance, but also challenges core stability and coordination, making it a comprehensive workout for the upper body and core muscles. So the starting position, he's going to stand upright with feet shoulder width apart, knees slightly bent in an athletic position. To engage lower body stability grip, he's going to hold the battle ropes with an overhand grip, so a pronated grip. Arms extended downwards, maintaining slight tension of the rope. There you go. Yes. So as he's going, we're going to talk about the muscle engagement that goes on in the concentric phase. Shoulders, the deltoid muscles, anterior and lateral heads contract concentrically to initiate shoulder flexion and abduction. The arms, so the biceps brachii, contract concentrically to flex the elbows, pulling the ropes upwards. The abdominal muscles, so the rectus abdominis, obliques, engage to stabilize the torso against the force generated by the arms. In the eccentric phase, the shoulders, so the deltoids, the posterior head specifically, eccentrically contract to control the descent of the ropes. Arms, the triceps brachii, the forearm muscles, eccentrically contract to extend the elbows and control a downward movement of the ropes. Also in the eccentric phase, the abdominal muscles eccentrically contract to maintain stability as the ropes return to the starting position. A little bit more description of the movement. So the concentric phase, initiate the movement by rapidly raising one arm at a time, alternating between left and right arms to create a wave-like motion in the battle rope. This involves quick shoulder abduction, elbow flexion, and wrist flexion to generate momentum to create the waves. The eccentric phase allow the ropes to fall back down under a controlled resistance, maintaining a continuous alternating pattern. This phase involves shoulder abduction, elbow extension, and wrist extension to control the rope's descent. So the primary movers that goes on during this movement, for the concentric, the deltoids and anterior lateral heads, biceps brachii. Those are the concentric movers. And during the eccentric phase, the deltoid, specifically the posterior head, triceps brachii, forearm muscles are the primary the prime movers of the eccentric phase. Okay, so for the alternating wave slams, we are on the second variation. We're going to do alternating wave slams in a squatting position. So performing a battle rope alternating waves in a squatting position introduces additional challenges by engaging lower body strength and stability. The primary movement remains in the sagittal plane with concentric contractions of the muscle to lift the ropes and eccentric contractions to control their descent. Both variations emphasize coordination, core stability, upper body strength, effective making them effective exercise for overall muscular endurance and conditioning. So we're going to talk about the squatting position, the muscle engagement that goes on, because everything else is still the same. So um, he's still going to go ahead, stand upright with feet shoulder width apart, knees slightly bent to engage the lower body stability. He's going to have a pronated grip, arms extended downward, maintaining slight tension. So the only thing changes here is his squatting position. It's going to be lower than what it was initially during that first variation. So during the concentric phase of that squatting position, the lower body, specifically the quadriceps, the rectus femoris, vastus lateralis, vastus medialis, and vastus intermedius contract concentrically to extend the knees. So knee flexion. Hip extensors, the gluteus maximus, and hamstrings contract concentrically to extend the hips, aiding in standing up. Aiding from standing up from the squatting position. So when he goes into a relaxed form, he stands back up. The core, so the abdominal muscles, rectus abdominis, obliques, transverse abdominis, contract to stabilize the torso during the squat and the movement of the ropes. Upper body is similar to standing position. The shoulders, so the deltoid muscles, anterior and lateral heads, and other shoulder stabilizers. Engage similarly to the standing position. Arms, the biceps brachii, forearm muscles engage similarly to lift the ropes. During the eccentric phase of the lower body, the quadriceps and hip extensors, these muscles eccentrically contract to control the descent into the squat position, maintaining control and stability throughout. Okay, so for this movement, I think I actually have it to where he goes down into a squat position and comes back up. So that's why before I was talking about during the concentric phase, the hip extensors, they contract to extend the hips, and the quadriceps, they concentrically contract to extend the knees. So a little bit more clarity on that. For that movement, he's actually squatting up and down into knee flexion, knee extension, and a little bend at the trunk. So back to the eccentric phase of the lower body, so the quadricep hip extensors. These muscles eccentrically contract to control the descent into the squat position, maintaining control and stability throughout. For the core, the abdominal muscles eccentrically contract to maintain stability and control as the body lowers. The upper body, similar to standing position. The shoulders, the deltoid muscles, posterior head, eccentrically contract to control the descent of the ropes. Arms, the biceps brachii, and forearm muscles eccentrically contract to control the downward movement of the ropes. So we're going to go ahead and describe both movements kind of side by side and look at the comparison of those. So for the standard position, again, we begin with feet shoulder width apart, knees slightly bent, holding the battle ropes with the overhand grip, so a pronated grip, arms extended downwards, alternating, lifting each arm to create alternating waves in the ropes, focusing on maintaining a stable upright posture. So in the squatting position, the difference of that would be starting in the starting position with feet shoulder width apart, lowering into a squatting position by bending, by going into hip and knee flexion at the joint, maintaining a neutral spine and keeping chest lifted. And then holding the battle ropes with the overhand grip, that stays the same, and the pronated grip. Arms extend downwards, alternating, lifting each arm to create alternating waves in the ropes while maintaining the squat position. Okay, so we are still on the alternating wave slams. For the third variation, we'll be performing a battle rope alternating waves with a side-to-side shuffle. Um, so doing a lateral shuffle adds dynamic movement and challenges by engaging the lower body strength and stability. I'll get out of the way. The primary movement remains in the sagittal plane with concentric contractions of the muscles to lift the ropes and eccentric contractions to control their descent. Both variations emphasize coordination, core stability, and upper body strength, making them effective exercises for overall muscular endurance and conditioning while incorporating dynamic movement patterns. Um, so, because we are adding a lateral shuffles, this is going to be in the sagittal plane because they also have forward and backwards shuffles, but that's in the midline. Really, that's kind of awkward. I couldn't figure it out, so we decided to change it to a lateral shuffle. So during this lateral shuffle position, the muscle engagement that goes on. So the lower body in the concentric phase, the quadriceps, such as the rectus femoris, vastus lateralis, vastus medialis, and vastus intermedius, contract concentrically to extend the knee during the shuffle movements. The hip extensors, so the gluteus maximus and hamstrings, contract concentrically to move the body side to side or laterally, left and right. So for the core, the abdominal muscles, like the rectus abdominis, obliques, transverse abdominis, contract to stabilize the torso during the shuffle and the movement of the ropes. The upper body similar to the standard position. The shoulders, deltoid muscles, anterior and lateral heads, and other shoulder stabilizers engage similarly to the standard position. Arms, the biceps brachii and forearm muscles engage similarly to lift the ropes. In the eccentric phase, the lower body, so the quadriceps and hip extensors, these muscles eccentrically contract to control the descent as the body moves laterally, side to side during the shuffle. The core, the abdominal muscles eccentrically contract to maintain stability and control as the body shifts position. For the upper body, similar to the standard position, the shoulders, the deltoid muscles, posterior head eccentrically contract to control the descent of the ropes. Arms, so the triceps brachii and forearm muscles eccentrically contract to control the downward movement of the ropes. So he's going to do a few reps for about a minute or so while I have a description of the movements in the standard position and then the lateral shuffle position. So for the standard position, he's going to begin feet shoulder width apart, knees slightly bent, holding the battle ropes with an overhand grip and arms extended downwards. Alternate, lifting each arm to create the alternating waves in the rope, focusing on maintaining and stable upright posture. So for the lateral shuffle, he's going to start with feet shoulder width apart, knees slightly bent, while holding the battle rope with a pronated grip. That stays the same. Arms extending downwards, that stays the same. The only thing that really changes is him performing the actual shuffle movement laterally by stepping to the side while alternating the waves and the ropes. So as he demonstrates, he's going to start moving laterally. That's pretty good. He's keeping his form. He's staying stabilized. Everything's just being engaged right now. He's going to maintain a stable core and upright posture throughout the shuffle movements. He did pretty well with that, engaging his core to be able to perform those movements. Okay, So we are still in the fifth modality, battle rope power exercises. For the second exercise, I have snake slam. So the battle rope snake slam is a dynamic exercise that primarily engages muscles in the upper body and core. Movements occur primarily in the sagittal and frontal planes, with the concentric phase involving abduction and elevation of the shoulders, flexion of the elbows, and lifting the battle ropes. The eccentric phase involves controlled descent of the arms and battle ropes, with eccentric contractions of the shoulder and elbow extensor muscles. This exercise effectively develops upper body strength, power, and endurance, while also enhancing core stability and control during dynamic movements with the battle ropes. So we're going to talk about the movement planes a little bit before we get started. The movements in the battle rope snake slam primarily involve actions in the sagittal and frontal planes. The sagittal plane divides the body into the left and right halves, and the frontal plane divides the body in front and back halves. So we're going to go ahead and do a description of the movement starting with the starting position. He's going to stand feet shoulder width apart, holding the battle ropes in both hands and arms extended straight down in front of the body with a pronated grip. Um, so basically, he's going to simultaneously go into elbow flexion and extension, knees flexed into an athletic position, and slam the ropes up and down simultaneously. If you like to. Oh, simultaneously. There you go. So that is the snake slam. So we're going to talk a little bit about the muscle engagement. So for the concentric phase, the upper body, so like the shoulders, deltoid muscles, anterior and lateral heads contract concentrically to abduct the shoulders and initiate the movement. For the arms, the biceps brachii and forearm muscles contract concentrically to flex the elbows and lift the battle ropes. For the core, the rectus abdominis, obliques, and transverse abdominis engage to stabilize the torso and transfer force from the upper body to the ropes. For the lower body, legs, the muscles in the legs may engage to stabilize the body, but they are not actively involved generating force for this movement since he is in a neutral position for now. The concentric phase a little bit more in detail for the upper body. Um, the shoulders, they're going to contract to abduct and elevate the arms and the battle ropes. The arms are going to contract to flex the elbows and lift the battle ropes. The core engages to stabilize the torso and transfer force from the upper body to the battle ropes. During the eccentric phase, a little bit more in detail. For the upper body, the shoulders are going to eccentrically contract to control the descent of the arms and battle ropes. So that's when his arms go down. And for his arms, they're going to eccentrically contract to extend the elbows and control the movement as the battle ropes descend. So this is all the downward movement of the battle rope snake slam. For the core, it's going to continue to engage concentrically to stabilize the torso and maintain posture during the movement. So basically, eccentric phase, shoulders and arms eccentrically contract when he goes down, and when he lifts the rope. When he lifts the rope back up, that's when the shoulders and arms contract to initiate that abduct and elevate the arms and battle ropes, and then contract to flex the elbows and lift the battle ropes. So we're going to go ahead and move on to variation number 2. So for this variation, the only thing that changes is the placement of his hands. So he's still going to do a pronated grip, but he's going to do a snake slam with his hands together, just like that. So we're going to talk about the variation with the hands together a little bit. Oh my goodness. So For both variations of the battle rope snake slam, they primarily engage muscles in the upper body and core with movements occurring primarily in the sagittal and frontal planes. The main difference lies in the hand position and specific muscle engagement pattern during the movement initiation. In the standard position, the emphasis is on the shoulder abduction to initiate the movement while the hands together position. Um, the movement starts with palms facing each other and minimal shoulder abduction. Both exercises effectively develop upper body strength, power, endurance, as well as enhance core stability and control during dynamic movements with the battle ropes. So we're going to go ahead and do a little bit description of the movements since the hand placement kind of changes. But everything else stays the same. So standing feet shoulder width apart, holding the battle ropes together in both hands with palms facing each other and arms extended straight down in front of the body. Amazing, perfect. So as he knocks out a few of these, we're going to talk about the muscle engagement that goes on. So during the concentric phase, the upper body, so the shoulders, like the deltoid muscles, anterior and lateral heads, contract concentrically to abduct the shoulders slightly and initiate the movement. The arms, so the biceps brachii, forearm muscles contract concentrically to flex the elbows and lift the battle ropes together. The core, the rectus abdominis and obliques and transverse abdominis engage to stabilize the torso and transfer force from the upper body to the battle ropes. For the lower body, legs, the muscles in the legs may engage to stabilize the body, similar to the standard position, but again, they're not doing a lot more than stabilizing the body. For the eccentric phase, for the upper body, like the shoulders, the deltoid muscles, the posterior head, eccentrically contract to control the descent of the arms and battle ropes. So for the eccentric phase, we're talking about the lowering movement of the arms. So the arms, extension of the elbows. So the arms, the triceps brachii and forearm muscles eccentrically contract to extend the elbows and control the movement as the battle ropes descend. For the core, the rectus abdominis, obliques, and transverse abdominis continue to engage eccentrically to stabilize the torso and maintain posture during the movement. So we're going to talk about the concentric phase a little bit more in detail. For the upper body, shoulders, they're going to attract to abduct slightly and elevate the arms and battle ropes. Arms, they contract to flex the elbows and lift the battle ropes together, like I stated before. For the core, that gets engaged to stabilize the torso and transfer force from the upper body to the battle ropes. And then a little bit more the eccentric phase in detail. The upper body, so the shoulders, eccentrically contract to control the descent of the arms and battle ropes. For the arms, they're going to eccentrically contract to extend the elbow and control the movement as the battle ropes descend. The core is going to continue to engage eccentrically to stabilize the torso and maintain posture during the movement. So he's going to do a little bit of more reps so I can point out the concentric and eccentric phase a little bit. So the eccentric phase is mainly the downward movement of the rope. So when his arms are down, when his arms come up, that's when the concentric phase gets engaged. Good job. But we are going to get into variation number 3, the last variation, which is the power slam. So for the power slam, he's going to do a slight dip with a knee flexion, arms extended almost to the tops of his head, and to slam the rope as hard as you can. So you're going to, similar motion to a med ball slam. So you're going to, oh yeah. So he's going to, it's going to add a slight leap or hop to it with a dip. Both variations of the battle rope snake slam primarily engages muscles in the upper body and core with movements occurring primarily in the sagittal and frontal planes. The main difference lies in the range of motion and direction of force application. The standard position, the standard position, the emphasis is on the shoulders, shoulder abduction to initiate the movement, while the overhead power slam, the movement starts with shoulder abduction, then progresses to shoulder flexion to lift the battle ropes overhead. Both exercises effectively develop upper body strength, power, and endurance, as well as enhance core stability and control during dynamic movements with the battle ropes. Um, so basically, for it's the battle rope snake overhead power slam. Um, that is a chunk of words, but basically the only difference is that he's bringing a little bit more exaggeration of power into the snake slam by trying to bring both of his arms overhead as he does it. So starting position, same as the standard battle rope snake slam, standing feet shoulder width apart, holding the battle ropes in both hands with arms extended straight down in front of the body. We're going to talk a little bit about the muscle engagement that goes on. The concentric phase for the upper body, shoulders, like the deltoid muscles, anterior and lateral heads contract concentrically to abduct the shoulders and elevate the arms and battle ropes overhead. So that's that overhead position. For the arms, the biceps brachii and forearm muscles contract concentrically to flex the elbow and lift the battle ropes over the head. For the core, the rectus abdominis, obliques, and transverse abdominis engage to stabilize the torso and transfer force from the upper body to the battle ropes. For the lower body, so the legs, muscles in the legs may engage to stabilize the body, similar to the standard position. A little bit more on the eccentric phase for the upper body. So the concentric phase is when he lifts his arms above his head. The eccentric phase is going to be that slam down motion. So for his shoulders, the deltoid muscles, the posterior head, eccentrically contract to control the descent of the arms and the battle ropes. So when he slams his arms down, this is what it's talking about. For the arms, the triceps brachii and forearm muscles eccentrically contract to extend the elbows and control the movement as the battle ropes descend. The core, the rectus abdominis, obliques, and transverse abdominis continue to engage eccentrically to stabilize the torso and maintain posture during the movement. So if you like to knock out a few reps, we'll point out the eccentric and concentric phases. So during the concentric phases, it talked about abduction of the deltoid muscles of his shoulder, abducting his shoulders to elevate the arms overhead. The biceps brachii, forearm muscles also contract concentrically to bring that overhead. The rectus abdominis, those are always going to remain stabilized, and then the legs there will always remain stabilized as well. So a little more concentric phase in detail. The upper body, like the shoulders, contract to abduct and elevate the arms and battle ropes. The arms contract to flex the elbows and lift the battle ropes. Core, they engage to stabilize the torso and transfer force from the upper body to the battle ropes. So a little bit more of the eccentric phase in detail. The upper body, so like the shoulders, eccentrically contract to control the descent of the arms and the battle ropes. Arms, they eccentrically contract to extend the elbows and control the movement as the battle ropes descend. For the core, they're going to be in continuous engagement to eccentrically engage eccentrically to stabilize the torso and maintain posture during that movement. Okay, so we are officially on modality number 6 which is the resisted sprint exercises. Um, so the exercise number one I chose was a regular standard sled pull. So the sled pull sprint is a dynamic exercise that primarily engages muscles in the upper body and core. Movement primarily occurs in the sagittal plane with concentric contraction of the deltoid muscles, um, driving the sled towards the body. The core muscles play a crucial role in stabilizing the torso and transferring force during both pull and recovery phases. The eccentric contractions occur as these muscles work to control the descent of the arms and maintain stability. This exercise is highly effective for developing upper body strength, power, and endurance, while enhancing core stability controlling during the dynamic pulling movements. Um, So she's gonna, for the starting position, she's gonna stand facing the sled with feet hip width apart, knees slightly bent, grasping the sled handles or the rope in this case, um, knees with an overhand grip, so pronated grip, arms fully extended forward. Um, as she does maybe a few reps, we're going to talk about the muscle engagement. So in the concentric phase, the upper body, shoulders, deltoid muscles, anterior and lateral heads, they contract concentrically to flex and abduct the shoulders, initiating the pulling movement, um, or pulling motion. The arms, so the biceps brachii, contract concentrically to flex the elbows, pulling the sled towards the body. Um, For the core, the rectus abdominis, obliques, transverse abdominis engage to stabilize the torso and transfer force from the upper body to the lower body. Um, for the eccentric phase, the upper body, shoulder, deltoid muscles, posterior head eccentrically contract to control the descent of the arms as they return to starting position. The arms, the triceps brachii, and forearm muscles eccentrically contract to extend the elbows and control the extension of the arms. For the core, the rectus abdominis, obliques, transverse abdominis continue to engage eccentrically to stabilize the torso to maintain posture during the movement. Um, so with the lower body, the gluteus maximus, here I have my bit on that. For the lower body, we have the quadriceps, the rectus femoris, vastus lateralis, vastus medialis, and vastus intermedius. They contract concentrically to extend the knees, pushing herself backward to be able to pull the sled. The hip extensors, the gluteus maximus, and hamstrings contract to be able to stabilize herself and to actually put power into the sprint. I think the sled itself, it's kind of heavy, so there's no weight on there, but I promise it's taking her a lot of power to be able to push. Okay. So the concentric phase in detail a little bit more. The upper body, um, so the shoulders, they stabilize to maintain tension to be able to pull. So the arms stay an extension to be able to have that tension and hang on to the sled. The quadriceps, they contract to go into knee flexion and extension, pushing the sled, and the gluteus maximus and the hip flexors, they contract to be able to put power into her step. So for the second variation, we have bent over sled pulls. She's going to go ahead. We're going to remove this. Taking my time. Right. Oh. Sorry. Hope that wasn't too loud. But I think I dropped my mic earlier too, so I'm sorry about that also. But so we're taking off the rubber band. The rubber band was for the first variation, but for the second variation, we found it easier to just hold on to the handles of this sled specifically because it has like an L formation. which helps her bend over to do the bent over sled pulls. So this is going to cause an extra trunk flexion. So the bent over sled pull sprint and the standard position primarily engages muscles in the upper body, core, and lower body, with movements primarily occurring in the sagittal plane. Both variations involve concentric contractions to initiate and maintain the pulling motion, as well as eccentric contractions to control the descent of the arms and maintain stability. The bent over position places additional emphasis on the erector spinae and core muscles to stabilize the spine and maintain the bent over posture while generating force. Both exercises are effective for developing upper body strength, power, and endurance, as well as enhancing core stability and control under dynamic pulling conditions. So we're going to go ahead and get into the description of the bent over position. So she's going to lean forward at the hips, so trunk flexion, keeping back flat, knees slightly bent for that athletic position. So knee and hip flexion, hip, knee, and trunk flexion. She's going to grasp the sled handles with a pronated grip, arms extended downward towards the, well, they're not going to be like completely towards the ground because the handles are a little higher up. Maybe if they're lower, she'll have her hands pointing down on the ground. So for the muscle engagement during the concentric phase, the upper body, so the deltoid muscles, anterior and lateral heads, they contract concentrically to flex and abduct the shoulders, initiating the pulling motion. The arms, so the biceps brachii, contract concentrically to flex the elbows, pulling the sled towards the body. So if she's able to, there might be a slight elbow flexion as she gets more warmed up on the sled. So for the core, the erector spinae, transverse abdominis, and obliques engage to stabilize the spine and maintain the bent over position. The lower body, so the quadriceps and hip extensors, they contract to stabilize the lower body and generate the force through the legs while in the bent over position. The eccentric phase, the upper body, the shoulders, deltoid muscles, posterior head eccentrically contract to control the descent of the arm as they return to the starting position. The arms in the eccentric phase, the triceps brachii and forearm muscles eccentrically contract to extend the elbows and control the extension of the arms. The core, so the erector spinae, transverse abdominis, and obliques, continue to engage eccentrically to stabilize the spine and maintain posture during the movement. So as she's doing the sled pulls, her core is constantly engaged as she goes all the way down, and then she gets into a relaxed position so she can turn to the other side of the sled and come back. So the concentric phase in a little bit more detail. The upper body, the shoulders contract to remain stabilized while doing a pulling motion. Arms, elbows may go in flexion depending how she pulls the sled towards her body. The core is engaged to stabilize the torso, transfer force from the lower body to the sled. The lower body, the quadriceps and hip extensors contract to stabilize the lower body and generate force through the legs while in the bent over position. And the core, like I said before, continue to engage eccentrically to stabilize the torso to maintain posture during the movement. Okay, for the third variation, we have sled drags. So as we're setting up the sled drags, she's going to go ahead and wrap it around this notch that's already on the sled. This sled is pretty nice. It already has some weight to it. So for the sled drag, we're going to talk about a little bit of both variations in comparison of the sled drag. So both variations of the sled pull primarily engage muscles in the upper body, core, and lower body, with movements occurring in the sagittal plane. The main difference lies in the direction of the force application and shoulder engagement. In the standard position, the emphasis is on shoulder flexion and abduction. I think more of quadricep contraction. So quadricep, um, how it contracts eccentrically and concentrically throughout the movement, and hip flexors, how they get engaged. Um, Whereas in facing away position with the straps on top of the shoulders, it involves shoulder extension and abduction. Both exercises effectively develop strength, power, and endurance, as well as enhance core stability and control during dynamic pulling movements. Um, so it's a sled pull, a sprint, facing away straps on top of the shoulders. So for the starting position, it is a little different than what the other variations were. She's going to face away from the sled with feet hip width apart, uh, position of the sled straps on top of the shoulders or across the upper back. So we can't really pull it to both sides of the shoulders since it's one band. She's going to just pull it over her upper back, which is totally fine. So with the muscle engagement, the concentric phase, the upper body, so like the shoulders, specifically the deltoid muscles, anterior and lateral heads contract concentrically to extend and abduct the shoulders, initiating the pulling motion. Arms, the biceps brachii contract concentrically to flex the elbows, pulling the sled towards the body. The core, the rectus abdominis, obliques, transverse abdominis engage to stabilize the torso and transfer force from the upper body to the lower body. Uh, the lower body, the quadriceps and hip extensors assist in maintaining stability, generating force through the legs, particularly the hip extensors, for propulsion to get that powerful sprint motion. A little bit more of the eccentric phase for the upper body. Shoulders, deltoid muscles, posterior head eccentrically contract as they return to the starting position. Um, so her body relaxes and everything kind of drops when she hits to the end. Arms, so the triceps brachii and forearm muscles eccentrically contract to extend the elbows and control the extension of the arms. The core, so the rectus abdominis, obliques, transverse abdominis continue to engage eccentrically to stabilize the torso and maintain posture during the movement. Um, a little bit more of the concentric phase in detail for the upper body and core. Um, so the shoulders contract to extend and abduct the facing away position, or flex and abduct for the standard position, initiating the pulling motion. Arms contract to extend, the elbows, pulling the sled. To be able to pull the sled, the core is engaged to stabilize the torso and transfer force from the lower body to the sled. Um, the eccentric phase, the upper body, so the shoulders, they eccentrically contract to control the descent of the arms as they return to starting position. The arms, they eccentrically contract to so actually elbow flexion. I think I said earlier, arms contract to extend the elbows, but they contract to flex the elbows. I forgot she is holding it up and above her shoulder, which is causing her to have elbow flexion, pulling the sled with her body. For the back to the eccentric phase, the arms, they eccentrically contract to extend the elbows and control the extension of the arms. And the core, they're going to continue to engage eccentrically to stabilize the torso and maintain posture during the movement. And then back to the lower body, the quadriceps and hip extensors. They play a big part in assisting in maintaining stability and generating force through the legs, so driving her foot down into the ground, so she's able to push that extra weight. And again, to emphasize the hip extensors that influence the power for propulsion. Okay, so we are still on um, Modality number 6, which is a a resistant sprint exercise. For the second workout, I decided to use resistant band sprints. So basically, the resistant band sprint is a dynamic exercise that primarily engages the muscles in the lower body and core. Movement occurs in the sagittal plane with concentric contractions of the quadriceps, hip extensors, and calves, driving the body forward against the resistance band. The core muscles play a crucial role in stabilizing the torso and transferring force from the lower body to the resistance band. Eccentric contractions occur as these as these muscles work to control the descent of the limbs during the recovery phase. This exercise is effective for developing lower body strength, power, and speed, while also enhancing core stability and control during dynamic sprinting movements against resistance. Um, so during these movements in resistant band sprints primarily involve actions in the sagittal plane where the body moves forward along its midline. Um, so for his starting position, he's gonna have a secured resistance band around his waist. He's gonna stand feet hip width apart, securing one end of the resistance band to a stationary object, or somebody will be assisting you and holding the band. As you can see here, I have Helen and Zeke as my demo people. So for the muscle engagement during the concentric phase, the quadriceps are going to contract concentrically to extend the knees, driving the legs against the resistance band. The hip extensors, like the gluteus maximus, hamstrings, contract concentrically to extend the hips, propelling the body forward. And then the calves contract concentrically to plantar flex the ankles, pushing against the ground for additional force. So he's only going to do like a few of these, just so I don't wear them out. For the eccentric phase, in the lower body, quadriceps and hip extensors eccentrically contract to control the knee and hip flexion as the leg swings forward, and the calves eccentrically contract to control dorsiflexion in the ankles during the recovery phase. Do you want to do some? You only have to do a few. Oh my gosh. Okay, the resistance band is a little thin, and so he's pulling it a little faster. So it's still a little bit of resistance, but not the greatest resistance. There won't be a total great difference. Um, for the core in the eccentric phase, the rectus abdominis, obliques, transverse abdominis continue to engage eccentrically to stabilize the torso and maintain posture during the movement. Um, the concentric phase in detail, the lower body, so the quadriceps contract to extend the knees, generating force against the resistance band. Hip extensors contract to extend hips, propelling the body forward. The calves, they contract to plantar flex the ankles, contributing to the forward push. Um, for the core, they're going to engage to stabilize the torso and transfer force from the lower body to the resistance band. And a little bit more on the eccentric phase in detail. Uh, the lower body, the quadriceps and hip extensors, they eccentrically contract to control the knee and hip flexion during the recovery phase. Calves, they eccentrically contract to control dorsiflexion of the ankles as the foot returns to the ground. The core, they continue to engage eccentrically to stabilize the torso and maintain posture during the movements. Okay, so we are on variation. Question mark. We are on variation number 2. We're going to do a backward sprint. He's going to be facing Helen, but a little bit more on the backward sprint. So both the standard forward sprint and the resistance band backward sprint primarily engage muscles in the lower body and core. With movements occurring in the sagittal plane, the main difference lies in a direction of force application and the specific muscles engaged. In the standard position, the emphasis is on extending the hips and knees to propel the body forward, whereas in the backward sprint with the resistance band, it involves flexing the hips with the resistance band. Oh, where it involves flexing the hips and extending the knees to move backwards against the resistance. There you go. Both exercises effectively develop lower body strength, power, endurance, as well as enhance core stability and control during dynamic sprinting movements against resistance. So, starting position, of course, feet hip width apart, securing one end of the resistance band to hold a um, stationary object or to a somebody who's able to hold it. Um, he's going to be facing the stationary object or the person holding it. Um, for his lower body during the concentric phase, he's going to contract concentrically to extend the knees, driving the legs backwards against the resistance band. His hip flexors, like the Leo, Leosis rectus femoris, contract concentrically to flex the hips, pulling the body backwards. Um, Calves contract concentrically to plantar flex the ankles, pushing against the ground for additional force. So that's where he has to drive his foot into the ground to be able to push himself back. For the core, so the rectus abdominis, obliques, transverse abdominis engage to stabilize the torso and transfer force from the body to the upper body and the resistance band. The eccentric phase, also the concentric phase, is basically when he has to kick his foot back, having to engage those quads, those knee and hip flexors. Um, for the eccentric phase, that's when his quadriceps and hip flexors are going to eccentrically contract to control the knee and hip extension as the leg swings back forward. Um, Calves, they're going to eccentrically contract to control dorsiflexion. um, they're going to, oh, dorsiflexion of the ankles during the recovery phase. For the core, the rectus abdominis, obliques, transverse abdominis continue to engage eccentrically to stabilize the torso and maintain posture during the movement. A little bit more on the concentric and eccentric phase in detail. So the quadriceps and hip flexors, um, or extensors, they're going to eccentrically contract to control the knee and hip flexion. So the standard position or the extension, backward sprint. Um, so so when they pull backwards, that is the eccentric phase. I see. During the recovery phase, so the calves, they're going to eccentrically contract to control dorsiflexion of the ankles as the foot returns to the ground. Um, the core, it's going to continue to engage eccentrically to stabilize the torso and maintain posture during the movement. So number for the variation number 3, so for variation number 3, we're gonna do a resistance band sprint with a high knee. So both the standard resistance band sprint and the resistance band high knee sprint primarily engages muscles in the lower body and core with movements occurring in the sagittal plane. The main difference lies in the specific muscles engaged and the nature of the movement. In the standard position, the emphasis is on extending the hips and knees to propel the body forward, whereas not stationary, the high knee sprint involves a rapid flexion of the hips and knees to lift the knees towards the chest against the resistance band. Both exercises effectively develop lower body strength, power, and endurance, as well as enhance core stability and control during dynamic sprinting movements against resistance. Um, so for starting position, he's gonna stand feet hip width apart, secure one end of the resistance band to someone or a stationary object. He's gonna lift his knees towards his chest, alternating between both knees in rapid motion while maintaining a good form. Ooh, I'm out of the camera. I did not know this. Oh, so go ahead, lift one knee and alternate with one and the other. Yes, true. I think Do you want to be stationary? That's why stationary is probably better. We're actually gonna on the fly change it to a stationary high knee sprint. So basically, he's gonna rapidly alternate doing high knees with each leg in a stationary position, all while being resisted by him leaning forward in a nice angle. Oh, without falling. We don't have anything more rigid than a resistance band here. So we're gonna try our best with make do. Um, so same starting position. He's going to try to lift his knees towards his chest, alternating between the two knees in a rapid motion while maintaining a stationary position. So I guess like you don't have to lean that much forward. I guess just do high knees. So he's doing high knees. Oh, you got to stay in place though. Okay. So he's just going to do it in one place. Um, that was a good example. All right. So for the muscle engagement for this, during the concentric phase, um, his lower body, so his hip flexors, leosis, rectus femoris, contract concentrically to flex the hips, lifting the knees towards the chest against the resistance band. The quadriceps contract concentrically to extend the knees after the knee is lifted. The calves contract concentrically to plantar flex the ankles, providing additional force. For the core, the rectus abdominis, the obliques, transverse abdominis, engage to stabilize the torso and maintain balance and control throughout the movement. During the eccentric phase, the lower body, like the hip flexors and quadriceps, they eccentrically contract to control the hip and knee, knee extension as the leg returns to starting position. The calves are going to eccentrically contract to control dorsiflexion of the ankles during the recovery phase. The core, so the rectus abdominis, obliques, and transverse abdominis, are going to continue to engage eccentrically to stabilize the torso and maintain posture during the movement. So a little bit more of the concentric and eccentric phase in detail. Um, so for the lower body, the hip flexors, they're going to contract to flex the hips, lift the knees towards the chest against the resistance band. So that is the movement where he has his knee up as high as he can to his chest. Um, I don't know if I said this, but his calves are going to eccentrically contract to control dorsiflexion of the ankles during the recovery phase. Um, for his core, that he's going to engage his core to stabilize the torso and transfer force from the lower body to the resistance band. The eccentric phase in detail. For the lower body, his hip flexors and quadriceps eccentrically contract to control the hip and knee extension as the leg returns to starting position. Calves are going to eccentrically contract to control dorsiflexion of the ankles during the recovery phase. The core is going to continue to engage eccentrically to stabilize the torso and maintain posture during the movement. So for my second cool down stretch, we're going to move into static stretching. So we're going to be doing a wall stretch here. So some of the movement planes are going to involve primarily in the sagittal plane. So that's when the leg is moving forward and backward up against, not the wall, but as he's moving on the wall, while he's against the wall and moving. So some of the muscle engagements that goes on. So the hamstrings are going to lengthen and stretch as the leg is raised against the wall, pushing against the wall. The gluteus maximus helps extend the muscle joint. The calf stabilizes the ankle and foot during the stretch. And the core, it stabilizes the torso and maintains balance. Some of the benefits that goes on for the wall stretch. So it's going to be a deep stretching. It's going to target the hamstrings, glutes, and lower back muscles effectively, improves flexibility, increases range of motion in the hip and knee joints. It relieves muscle tension, reduces tightness and soreness in the hamstrings and glutes, promotes relaxation, calms the nervous system, and promotes overall relaxation post-workout. Okay, so we are officially done with all of our modalities, including the warm-up in the very beginning. So for a cool down, I have a few things listed. We're gonna start off with cycling just to slow down the heart rate, relax the muscles a bit. To inverted hamstring stretch. Ooh, I don't think we're doing an inverted hamstring stretch. We're doing a wall stretch next with a side quadricep stretch, a semi leg straddle, spinal twist, straight arms behind the back, and then behind the neck stretch. So, of course, we are starting off with cycling. Um, Sorry, I said inverted hamstring stretch. I had some dynamic workouts. I know I talked to Dr. Durgo about that. My bad. I did not know we're supposed to do static stretches in the cool down for the main part. But for cycling, the movement planes, they involve movements primarily in the sagittal plane, forward and backward pedaling, in the transverse plane, so that's going to involve the rotational movement of the hips. Um, you're supposed to go slow and relax. Imagine you did this entire workout and you're tired, so you're doing this slow and steady. Um, oh, true, good posture. Thank you. Um, for the lower body, the quadriceps will continue to contract to extend the knee during pedaling, in a less intense fashion. For the hamstrings, they're going to assist in knee flexion during the recovery phase of the pedal stroke. Um, the core, so the transverse abdominis and obliques, engage to stabilize the pelvis and maintain posture during cycling. Uh, Amazing lighting in here. And some of the benefits of cycling, it's going to have an active recovery, which helps flush out metabolic waste products from the muscles, muscle relaxation, which reduces tension in the lower body muscles post exercise. It's also going to have improved circulation. Bless you. Bless you. Improved circulation, which enhances blood flow to aid in muscle recovery. And then some mental relaxation, as he's supposed to be going slow and steady. This will provide a calming effect and reduces stress levels, knowing that this is also the end of the long workout we just did. What do you mean?
You're talking about how like calming is like for
So we did a lot of plyometric workouts. So basically, that was a lot of explosive movements, um, and that puts a stress on the muscles. God bless. So that puts a lot of stress on the muscles. So during this easy, consistent movement, very slowly cycling, kind of slows down the body a little bit, signaling the muscles like, hey, we're at the end, and relaxing now. So now, we just finished the wall stretches. He's doing a few more. Um, we are going to get into the side quadricep stretch. I got this stretch from the textbook. I thought it was pretty nice because you're literally laying down on the floor and stretching your quads. It is a static workout, and it involves little to no movement. It's very stationary. So we're gonna get my brother off the wall. He's gonna turn, face the camera, please, and then he's gonna go ahead and get in a lying down position. He's gonna go down, lie down on his left or right shoulder. Nice. He's gonna reach back, bend his knee into knee flexion, and then grab onto his ankle and pull back. Oh, you have to balance. So let's try to stay aligned and pull your leg back. Okay. And while he does that, he's probably going to count maybe 10 to 20 seconds each leg, so he's able to stretch it. Um, so also, someone just walked in. I feel so bad. I hope he knows that this is a public space and he can come and use any of this equipment. But so we're going to talk about the movements and muscle engagements going on with this stretch. So for every 10 to 20 seconds you switch. Okay, cool. And so the atomical planes that involve this movement is primarily in the sagittal plane. So the leg moving backwards. So when he pulls that leg back, that's when the sagittal plane gets involved. Um, a little bit of the muscle engagement going on. So the quadriceps stretches and lengthens in that area right there while the leg is pulled backward. The hip flexors also stretch as the legs move backward. So right there, this is also going into hip extension. Um, Especially the rectus femoris specifically and the hip flexors. He needs these stretches, as you can tell. You can switch legs. You don't need me to command you. Um, the hamstrings, they also may be engaged to stabilize the pelvis during the stretch. Some of the benefits for this stretch, again, we have the actual stretching and relaxation benefit. This is going to relieve tension and tightness in the quadriceps and hip flexors. Um, so when that tension gets released, the blood flow can go through the muscles and calm everything down. So it also improves flexibility. The more he does this, the more he's able to pull his quad back and go pull his knee flexion. And he's able to have a greater range of motion in which he can pull his leg further back. Um, this also enhances recovery, promotes blood flow to the muscles, aiding in recovery after plyometric exercises, which I said. So when the muscles are more relaxed, they're going to get blood flow. And this is going to reduce muscle soreness. It's going to help prevent muscle soreness by releasing tension accumulated during exercise. So, like lactic acid and things like that. Okay, so we got moved out of that room. It was nice and quiet, but there were some people that wanted to use the bikes in there, and it was totally okay. So we didn't want to make them feel like they couldn't in this public gym. Well, we're gonna go on to this fourth warm up. Also, I think I got this from the textbook. I mean, cool down, not warm up. I also got this one from the textbook in the static stretching portion of it. It's the semi leg straddle. So my demo, he's gonna sit down. Let's go ahead and face this way. He's gonna put his yes. So he's gonna put his knee into knee flexion, not super tight, close to his body, because it's a semi leg straddle. He's gonna lean forward, put his hands out in front of his feet if he can. If not, then he could definitely put them on his feet. Also, with this one, if you have somebody who could help you, you could give them an extra push, a slight push forward to enhance those muscles lengthening and more flexibility can be produced. So while he sits in that position, we're going to talk about some of the muscle engagement going on. So basically, since this is a static stretch, a lot of the lower body muscles, they are not contracting or anything. They're just being lengthened and they're not engaged or yeah. So the abductors, those specifically, are lengthening and they're gonna stretch as the legs move apart. So basically, his legs are apart. He can also separate his feet, which could also help with lengthening his abductors. Same thing for the hamstrings. They're gonna lengthen to facilitate hip flexion. Which is pretty cool. The way his feet are placed can change how much he wants to stretch those adductors and hamstrings. For the core, they're gonna stabilize the spine and pelvis during the stretch, mainly his obliques and rectus abdominis. Those are basically being crunched forward, and that's where that engagement comes from. A little bit of the benefits that we have going on is improved flexibility. It stretches the inner thigh muscles, so the adductors and the hamstrings. It relieves muscle tightness, um, so reducing the tension and soreness in the inner thighs and hamstrings. Um, this is also going to enhance the range of motion, which improves the ability to perform lateral movements and then promotes relaxation. All the static workouts are going to promote relaxation, so you might hear that one a lot. So it's going to encourage the relaxation of the muscles and the mind. So also knowing that this is the end of the workout, also for the athlete, they're going to be like, oh, their mind's just going to come to at peace knowing that we're almost done. So the next cool down stretch that we have is the spinal twist. This is also a static, very stationary stretch. He's gonna sit down on his bottom, sit down, and he's gonna put one his put one leg over the opposite knee on the outside, twist, put his elbow on the inside of the other knee, and rotate. Oh, how are you doing this? Oh, yeah, that's right. I think that's. Oh yeah, you're supposed to get the opposite. There you go. Okay, something wasn't looking right, but I'm glad we fixed it. So for this one, a little muscle engagement, a bit his core. So his obliques and rectus abdominis. They're gonna contract to rotate and stabilize the spine. The transverse abdominis stabilizes the internal organs and support the spine. Uh, the lower body. So the hip flexors engage to support the spine during the twist. Um, you're going to switch. For the benefits, spinal mobility increases flexibility and mobility of the spine, improves digestion, aids in digestion by stimulating abdominal organs, relieves lower back tension, reduces tightness and discomfort in the lower back, promotes relaxation, calms the nervous system, and promotes overall relaxation. For the next one, we are going to do straight arms behind the back. It's also a static stretch. Got this one from the textbook. So the muscle, he's going to go ahead and grab both hands behind his back, push his hands out as far as he can. And if he wants, he can lean forward, but I find it better to have a straight posture. He's pushing his hands out. So for his upper body, his deltoid muscles contract to extend and stabilize the arms. The triceps brachii engage to extend the elbows, the core. So the rectus abdominis and obliques stabilize the spine and pelvis during the stretch. So the benefits for this, the shoulder stretch improves flexibility, flexibility and range of motions in the shoulders. Relieves shoulder tension, reduces tightness and tension in the shoulder muscles. Improves posture, helps counteract forward shoulder posture. Enhances relaxation, promotes relaxation and stress release. Okay, now we are on our final stretch, the behind the neck stretch, which I found in the textbook. Sounds like a pretty good static exercise. So basically, she's going to put one hand up behind her head and the other hand down, and she's going to flex her arm upwards to be able to reach on the other side, as you can see as she turns around. So yep, so basically for that, she can also, if she wants, grab her hands and try to pull on each other to create a greater stretch. So the muscle engagement that goes on for the upper body, the deltoid muscles stabilize and support the arm during the stretch. The trapezius engages to support the shoulders and upper back. The core, so the rectus abdominis and obliques stabilize the spine and pelvis. So for some of the benefits, the shoulder and upper back stretch, it improves flexibility and range of motions in the shoulders and the upper back. It's going to relieve tension, so reduces tightness and discomfort in the upper back and shoulders. It's going to enhance posture. It's going to promote proper alignment of the spine and shoulders. It's going to also encourage relaxation, so it's going to facilitate relaxation and reduces stretch. So a little overall summary for all of these stretches. I'm going to go ahead and get into the summary. So cycling, That's going to aid in active recovery, muscle relaxation, and improve circulation. For the wall stretch, I have something else written down how to change it. For the wall stretch, is going to enhance flexibility, relieve muscle tension, and also promote relaxation. Um, for the side quad pulls, um, it's also a static stretch that allows for the rest of the body to go into a relaxed state, and the only thing working is going to be those quads, and they're going to improve on that flexibility and stretch. Um, Next, we have the semi leg straddle. It's going to increase flexibility, relieve muscle tightness, and enhance range of motion. The spinal twist is going to improve spinal mobility, aids digestion, and promotes relaxation. So the straight arms behind the back is going to stretch the shoulders, relieve tension, and improve posture. And the stretch behind the neck is going to enhance shoulder and upper back flexibility, relieves tension, and encourage relaxation. So incorporating these exercises into a cool down routine help facilitate muscle recovery, reduce muscle soreness, improve flexibility, and promote relaxation after a workout. Adjusting intensity and duration is going to be based on the individual's needs, and the workout intensity can optimize the benefits of each exercise in a cool down segment.